shoes last night to see if he was barefoot. Is that still the case? Is he barefoot? Because I know on Facebook somebody posted a picture of these could be his shoes, or is that so he is presumed to be barefoot at this point?
What I can say is that his mom says all of his shoes are accounted for at the house. I'm not going to say that he's barefoot.
All right.
Allegedly!
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here coming at you with another raw narrative. Here's a brief disclaimer for tonight's show. Let's watch.
That's ignorant! Allegedly, that's ignorant! Ignorant!
Judgment, Austin.
Oi, you read my thoughts. You've got the shinin.
You mean shining?
Shh, you wanna get sued?
Judgment, Austin.
You just use that shin of yours to call me and I'll come a-running. But don't be reading my mind between 4 and 5. That's Willie's time.
Hey, yo, boss. I love it when he does that.
Let's watch.
Don't get me back to good bullshit.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here coming at you with another raw narrative, and it's so good to see all you guys today. So I have Town Chat Cafe, I have Detroit Rock City. Good to see you, Detroit Rock City. I saw Little Miss Sharon. Oh, sorry guys, I think my mic just kicked on. I saw Kiki, or I'm sorry, Kai Kai. I saw Momming It Up. Good to see you, Momming It Up. I also saw Ann Reynolds, Patty, good to see you, Show Poodles, and Holly S. Also saw Kathy Bartholomew and Megan Els and Hindsight 2002. So good to see you guys tonight. And shout out really quick to Hindsight 2002. I watched the video that you put out and it was awesome. And I was like, wow, what really stellar observation skills and kind of investigative work, in my opinion. So really great. And I wanted to kind of slow jam that with you guys tonight. So just taking a look at what we're seeing, what you all are seeing, and see, to see what we can come up with. And then, of course, we'd love to pick your brain hindsight too. And shout out to also Mama Risa and BMW Coop, because I know that you guys worked so hard together. And, I think it just takes a team of people working together to figure out what happened here, because there is so much still in the Sebastian Rogers case. Yes, hindsight. Yes, thank you. And I just love that. I love that so much because, they say two heads are better than one. Well, three heads are great. The more people that are thinking, theorizing, hypothesizing, the better we are, right? Because we enjoy doing this in our free time, a lot of us, and I think it really can help boost some of what law enforcement may not have the time and resources to do. And we can say maybe there's reasons why they're not, maybe there's reasons why they are, maybe they already know this and we're just super sleuthing it. Just a lot can be going on at once, right? And so I'm always praying and hoping that law enforcement is on this. Anytime, we've gone over things that I've discovered or that I've shared, I will share that out with law enforcement, dogs team even. Hey, Captain K9 Jules, good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. So, there's just so much that we could analyze in this case. And I'm always so grateful to these ladies for really reminding us all of that, right? Like there are so many little details that still can be discovered, and not that they haven't been by law enforcement, but that we haven't discovered, right, as the public. And we got a lot of eyeballs out there that can really help the situation, right? Hey, Kiki, good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. And you're not late at all. I'm just kind of doing an intro for tonight. So, today, guys, I had a really good day. I had to push my live up for 15 minutes. Icing on the cake, my daughter called me and was kind of filling me in on some of her new things that are going on with her. So I was really glad to get a call this evening. And so that's why I was kind of a little bit, I pushed the live up at 15 minutes. But, I briefly wanted to go over kind of, and not pertaining at all to Sebastian's case, but just pertaining to some legal matters that came up. And I know that many of you are probably aware of them in some form or shape. And I don't want to spend a lot of time here, but just long story short, I was able to get a protection order, and it is forever, against two creators that had decided it would be a good idea to come to where I live and cause trouble, right? And fortunately, in my opinion, justice did prevail today. So it was a really good day. I was able to feel comfortable and safe in my own environment, which is the only reason why I wanted to move forward with that. So really great news there. And, possibly we might do something in the future, kind of explaining everything. I think I owe it to my members to do that. So I think that I will do that, on a members. And I get that people can still see the members, or they can pay to see the members. I understand that. But I have not done a members only live yet, but I think it would be a good opportunity for me to just go over kind of with everyone who's stood by me, right? Because there's a lot of people that haven't. Hey, Sasha. And there's a lot of people that have. So equally, I'm grateful for both, right? Because I'm a big believer of, sometimes people are in your life for a season and then they leave, and, it was nice knowing you, right? And that sort of thing. And it doesn't always have to be a bad thing. And so I don't look at it like that. I try to be a glasses half full kind of gal. And I try to remain optimistic in life as much as possible. So thank you, little Miss Sharon. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of you guys, like I said, that have just, and there's way too many of you to mention, really. Um, just been patient. I know that this week I was off live, and it was just mainly because I really wanted to focus in on, kind of some self-care, because it's triggering, in anybody that's been involved in kind of a high stress situation. You kind of understand, right? There's things in life that do that to us, but you know I do want to explain some of what happened, because I know that there's a lot of misinformation already out there. But I don't want to take the time to do that tonight. I think it'd be probably more fitting just doing it in a more intimate, members only style fashion. So that's what I'm going to do. But it won't be tonight. I don't have enough to prepare for it. And quite honestly, these things work both ways, right? So I'm not to go, doing anything to these people, which I never did, for the record, but I'm not to do that to them, right? They're not to do that to me. But I know that it's already been widely discussed, in an hour-long live by the two people that I do have this protection order took it upon themselves to still talk about it, which is really awkward for me, honestly. Hey, Josh, good to see you, Lab After Dark. Thanks for being here. So, I mean, it's just kind of thrust me into a situation where I might have to kind of discuss it a little bit. But again, long story short, um, there was a situation where it was threatening. I made the report, right? Always document these things, just take the proper steps. Again, there is some great information on Eric with an H, right? I've shared him. I'll link it in the description on anti-bullying, right? Anti-cyberbullying, what to do if you are experiencing that sort of thing. Really great information on his page. So I will link that there. And then so there was threats. I documented it. Obviously there was nothing at that time, but it was a paper trail. Then they did in fact show up here, at where I lived. And even in the first live that they did, you could tell that they were here before. They knew the layout. They knew what the stipulations were for people who were living here and everything like that. So they definitely cyber stalked me, right? Found out where I lived. That's the reason why it was pushed through. No other reason whatsoever other than that. Just to be completely honest and transparent with the process, I then did go and file for this order, right? Because then subsequently, when I was doing that, there was another post that came up too that said that they were going to do another field trip because of something someone else said on X, which I didn't even say, which was very, again, awkward. And I'm like, okay, so anytime somebody says something that they don't like, or I say something that they don't like, they're going to threaten to come to my private park where I live, right? And everything is like coded on the doors, and it's very quiet and nice. There's little kids riding their bikes. There's elderly people in golf carts. A really nice community that is not used to any type of like trashy behavior, right? And then in comes trashy behavior. And so obviously I went to, my landlord, let them know it was happening and all of that. Everything was documented very well on the other party's behalf, like they did that themselves, right? They posted it all very well documented for all of us to see. And then I just turned that in, and the judge just clearly said that, that they took it too far. And they did take it too far, because, the judge originally said, do you all work together? And I said, well, not necessarily, but sort of. And I said, we're both YouTubers. And I said, actually, all three of us are. And I said, So we do in some capacity work together. He said, "Are you an influencer?" And I said, "No." I said, "But I do true crime, right?" And the other party's stance was that they do parodies. And so I said, "Okay, and that was established." And then basically it was just facts, right? I did not get carted away. So here I am, not wanted. And moving forward with defamation and slander, that sort of thing is, something that my main concern was the protection and feeling safe in my own environment. And I feel that way now. So that is a good thing. And moving forward, I'll just take actions as I need to. But I would just really urge people to, don't believe everything that you see and hear, because a lot of times people are lying for their own reasons, right? We all have our own reasons, our own agenda. You don't create a YouTube live podcast every night without coming up here with some sort of agenda, right? Or some sort of plan in mind. And if I do come up and wing it, I always let you guys know that, or if I don't have clips prepared, that sort of thing. Welcome in, guys. Thank you, Retha Bell. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Hey, Canadian True Crime. Good to see you. So yeah, well, that's the thing, the field trips, right? And that was the code that he thought he would get away with, right? Like if he just said, "Oh, it's a field trip and it's not anything threatening," but the judge did see right through that. Josh, he really did. And I will say I was really pleased with the judge. He was very kind, he was very fair, I will agree. He was very fair, and just really explaining it and laying it out in a way that, like, if it would have stayed on YouTube, we could have talked back and forth with each other and maybe drove each other nuts all the time, and nobody would have been able to say anything or do anything. But the fact that he was actually like in where I live, and showing the address, and he had a second party that was involved. I do want to clear up one more thing too for the general public, which would be that when I filed these, you don't file a protection order on both parties. You file one on each person. They're even though they're married, right? They're doing this together. They're two separate people involved, and so each one of them got their restraining order, right? The first person, I should say, I filed them at the same time. The one person was denied without a protection order. The other person was granted with a protection order. And the only reason that happened was that was my fault, because I filed everything under one person instead of breaking it up and putting more information with the other person. Or I probably would have been granted that with a trial like we had, or a hearing, excuse me. And it's very cut and dry, right? And the judge was with us for, I would say, probably a half hour to 45 minutes, listening to each of our points of view and stories, if you will. Yeah, and I don't think that, I've actually, oddly enough, I hate to say it, Josh, I have watched a few of those, or saw the thumbnail, and I was, maybe probably not laughing for the right reason, or maybe not the reason that was, expected, or, anticipated by the creator. But yeah, and I get that, and I am very silly. You guys know I'm like really silly too, and I appreciate the art of laughter. I really do. But when it's at someone else's expense, it's a little bit more of a fine line, right? And then on top of it, a private person or entity out there. I know there's been talk about, the Proud Feet's house being publicized. Well, that's where Sebastian went missing from, right? So, to me, that is, not unusual, especially because we see that all the time with these cases, right? Somebody will go missing from a certain location, right? And then people are aware of that location because of the fact that that's where they went missing from. Sebastian's case is a little bit different, though, because we're always told that he went missing in the area or was last seen in the area of Stafford Court, which many of us who have been following the case from the beginning all understand and know that his mother, Katie, who was the last one with him, said that he was in his bed at 9 o'clock. He said goodnight to her and goodnight to the puppies and said, "I love you, Mom. I love you, puppies." And he went to bed. And then she was on the phone with Chris Proudfoot, her husband, Sebastian's stepfather, stepdad, step guy foot. And, at midnight, she goes to bed. She goes to wake up Sebastian at 6 a.m. and he's not in the bed where he was supposed to be. So that's the story. That's the real truth and the facts behind the narrative, right? That was given out by Katie Proudfoot. And I'm going by what Katie says because she's the last one with Sebastian. So at any rate, that's why we are focused on the home where he went missing from, because we're trying to find out what happened to him, unlike some people who seem to never want us to talk about him. And that's very concerning to me, Thanks, Megan Els. Thank you so much. Oh, I appreciate you so much. Well, and I and I can tell you, I couldn't have done it without like all of you guys. I'm serious too. And I mean that. And Bullhorn Betty too. She's out doing some amazing stuff herself right now. And I was just so I felt empowered because of all of you guys. Because I thought, you know what? It's been so ugly here. And like the last couple of days, I've had more time to kind of look at some of the stuff that I don't typically look at. And no, Sasha, there were no arrests made today. Just basically, I filed these orders of protection. And when the judge had the hearing with us today, he decided that there is cause. He said that it was cyber stalking, that it was stalking in the traditional sense, and that it was very odd behavior and not typical behavior of somebody of a normal thinking pattern, right? Is what the judge said. And he wasn't harsh on them. He was not harsh on me. He was very understanding, and he listened very well. And but nobody was arrested. No. And it wasn't that it wasn't that anything traumatic or excuse me, dramatic. It was traumatic a little bit for me. Like I said, I was nervous, and of course it was something that I didn't want to do, but you guys are awesome. But yeah, I mean, I just want people to know that you can do things. Like if people are harassing you and stalking you and doxing you, or like even trying to find out where you live, like take it seriously. Cause look, they were looking for me, and then they found me ultimately, right? And then they continued, and then they were like, "Hey, we're going to come back, and hey, these field trips aren't going to stop." And that was even after they were served the paperwork. So you just don't know what you're dealing with people, and if they tell you something, take it seriously, please, because I mean there's a lot of real life stuff going on. Trooper's mom, good to see you. Thank you, Trooper's mom. Oh, I'm so glad to see you here. And I've heard people getting floated around here lately. My friends, you know what I mean? And I don't like hearing that at all, at all, because I know you guys are here for Sebastian, not to listen to my life story. Even though sometimes you're nice about listening to anecdotes, and I really appreciate that. And I try to fit them in appropriately, but it isn't about me or who I don't like or who I dislike or who I just don't agree with or who I agree with. It's more about let's put our heads together and try to figure out what's going on here. Patty, I saw that. And, I would just say this to anybody that's going to do that. They have been asking for money for like 3 weeks, and there was no receipt shown at all. What happened to any of that money. Now, you guys know, and I've said it before here, if you give money to a cause, just remember that, when you give it to them, it's even though they may or may not use it for that cause. And so I think that's important just to remember that. That's all I would say about, I'll pull a Forrest Gump on that one. That's all I'm going to say about that, Jenna. But, somebody, oh, thank you, Holly S. I cannot get your super chat to go up here. Hold on a second. Let me see this. They make these little buttons so close together, and I'm like, gosh dang. Let me see if I could find it and click. Hey, Seven True. Good to see you. And just because we disagree on stuff doesn't mean we gotta like be mad at each other either. Okay, here we go, Holly S. Thank you so much for your super sticker, super chat. It says, proud of you, odd behavior you don't say. Oh my goodness. I mean, it just is, right? And I was really, I thought it was very well put. It was well explained, like for everybody that was there. So I don't know, like if there is confusion, I'm not sure. Hey Seth, good to see you. Good to see you. Happy belated birthday. I hope you like the silly card I made you. Hey Babs. Yeah, thanks Babs. Jules says, also, if you had a warrant out for you, they would have arrested you at the courthouse last time. I know, exactly. I mean, that's kind of the thing about people, like when they do these things and they put that stuff like constantly, it's like I almost can't be upset if somebody believes them, right? Because I'm not gonna lie, I kind of almost was like, what if I do get tackled or something? Like, I don't know, it's like in the back of your head because it's being said over and over, and that's kind of the power of what people are saying. That's why it's kind of it's a negative thing, right? It's not good. It's like if you always tell yourself, well, you're not good enough, you're ugly or whatever, you're fat or whatever, you're this, that, or whatever, or somebody tells you that constantly, you kind of start believing it. And I was kind of getting into a mindset of that, right? So I was really trying to keep it focused. Well, and see, that's Mom, and I'm glad that you brought that up too, because that's another thing that's kind of like a public kind of maybe confusing subject, would be like freedom of speech and where it falls in a case like when you're going for like a cyber stalking or something like that, or because we're both creators. So, and it was very clearly laid out by the judge, right? He said, look, if this would have stayed on YouTube and y'all were just going back and forth, or, I was saying things and he's saying things and or whatever, or if he just said things, and same thing goes for the other channel. If they were just saying things about me, that's okay. It's like, and I'm not going to name any creators, so I don't want to call them out, but there's a few creators out there that will take my lives and review them, right? Just kind of like I'm doing with Hindsight, but kind of maybe not in such a positive way. But I can't. Hey, Carla. I can't get upset with them for that. Well, I mean, I can get upset all day. It's just not going to matter. But because that is freedom of speech, right? They're able to say whatever they would like about me. They could be like, man, Lady Freedom's hair looks stupid, or, look at her dumb lipstick, or, I hate her dress. Who does she think she is? Like, they could say all of that kind of stuff. And I couldn't go in there and be like, hey, that's harassing. Maybe if it was relentless, like I see happening to other creators, which I don't condone any of it on either side of any of it. It's not nice. And I mean, I know that sounds really cliche and maybe simple, but it's just not right. It is nonsense. That's a good word. Mom has the best words. Nonsensical. Yeah, it is. It's very nonsensical. And hey, Seven. Thanks, Seth. Seth says, thank you for all the prayers and continued support. Be blessed and stay safe, everyone. Hashtag Sebastian Strong. Heck yeah, Seth, thank you so much. And we love you. And hashtag Sebastian Strong and hashtag Sebastian's Army. and we're keeping the faith and we're keeping Sebastian. There's still so much, guys, and that's the thing that I don't like getting pulled away from, really, because it's so important to talk about like true awareness about issues, right? But again, with the freedom of speech aspect of it, the minute that they came onto private property and the minute that they were doing the threats and following through and then more threats, that was the reasoning behind it, right? It's nothing more, nothing less. It's very simple. And you know, a bit of irony to be found, in my opinion. They told me don't talk about Summer, or I would be effing around and finding out, right? Essentially, what was said in one of the videos. And that is funny because that means that if I talk about something or if something is said on Twitter, again, free speech, then they're going to come to where I live and harass me. And that doesn't work in the real world. It's very simple, and you can't defame people. You can't run around telling people, you know, X, Y, and Z when it's not true. That's when it comes into defamation or slander and or slander. So just kind of a couple of different things, but I couldn't say take them to the same court for the defamation and slander. That would be a separate issue. We were in civil court. So Megan L says entering a private community that you do not reside in is trespassing. Entering those facilities, laundry area, gym, and that you do not pay for is trespassing. Yes. And then I don't know how the codes were getting into, how they entered the facilities with the codes on the door. I'm still not 100% on that. It really didn't matter though, like you said, because that's all the judge was really concerned with. Not really that we're YouTubers, not that we were talking or not talking about each other, but more so that it was real life, someone showing up to somebody's house and two people doing that and then filming it and saying things like, we're trying to locate this person, and that sort of thing. I did have stalker court today, Babs. I did. But it was positive. And I'm just hoping everybody can maybe like cool off, right? Have a day, cool off, and tomorrow wake up fresh and think, okay, well, is it really worth taking a second thought at, really? And for the members, I do want to kind of go over some of the just some of the aspects personally, but again, the channel is really about true crime and missing people. And Peggy Setcliffe says, terrible, and I can give you a statement. He went to the laundry room too. Yeah, Peggy, that's the thing. They documented it all. So like what I had on my zip drive was just all of what they did, everything they showed. And, of course I shortened it a little bit so that way I took out pieces that, when they were talking about other people. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Seven True. I appreciate you. You guys really help out with the strength and things like that too, though, because I want to do, I want to do right by you guys, and I want my family to be proud of me. I want them to see my content and be like, hey, that's good stuff. It's not like getting up there every night and just trashing other people, because I don't want to do that. Hey, Judith Albert, good to see you. Aw, hey. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great way to put it too. Mom It Up says that's what I told. Reviewing content of a creator is not the same as harassment, stalking, etc. Yeah, because I mean, even though I might not like the way I'm being reviewed or something like that, I can't really, I can't get mad. Well, I can get mad all day. I just can't do nothing about it, really. Hey, Juicy Jules. but showing, the progression and the many threats and then the follow through was the whole deal. Thank you, Peggy. I so appreciate you. Thank you very, very much. Yeah, and like I said, I just want people to say, hey, if somebody's bugging me, I could do something about it. I don't have to feel like hopeless or helpless, because it is humiliating. Don't get me wrong, guys. I was completely humiliated, like when they started doing this kind of stuff, and I was like, I really hope that people don't believe what they're saying, but there's not really much you can do there. But then the showing up and everything was really, overboard, and that was what the judge focused in on, for the reason, and it wasn't close. By a long shot, it wasn't close. I'll just put it that way. Thanks. Megan L says, I'm very happy Lady can have a sense of relief enjoying her community again. Thank you. Yeah, because I didn't know if I went into the building if they would be standing there or what. I don't know how much free time there is to, spare there. And I'm like, okay, oh, thanks, Kiki. Kiki 2025 True Crime says, I have a husband and 2 boys, 6'3" and a quarter, and professional weightlifters. Don't think they want a field trip here. Oh no. Oh, they'd be like Terry bench pressing people. Oh no. Oh my goodness, that's funny. Yeah, and you just don't want it to come to that either, right? Because I don't want anybody getting hurt. That is the very last thing that I ever want, was for anybody to get hurt, on either side of the aisle, and I will concur a point I heard earlier. I did bring up to the judge about Las Vegas, and I said, there were 2 creators that had gotten so far into this beef that 2 of them ended up shot in the street in Vegas. And I did bring that up in court. Whether a case there sets precedent in Florida, I don't think it does. But either way, I thought it was valid. There was a lot of rustling in the table beside me. And the judge says, well, I'm not going to, don't worry, I won't consider that, but he was super fair, and he let me speak, and he let them speak, and that was good. Right, Babs. Freedom of speech doesn't equal freedom from repercussions of your actions. You go, Lady Freedom. Thank you, Babs. Yeah. And, and another thing, too, is you can't just, if somebody has done something, just even anything, you can't just go and, you can do a citizen's arrest, right? If you think that somebody's doing something in the moment, but you also have to involve law enforcement in that as well. You can't just, go out looking for people and be like, well, I don't like something they did, and, just go after them either. So I think that's important to remember. Well, some people have a big bit of land, and I wouldn't go on anybody's land. That's just me. I really wouldn't, because that you really run a risk. So, thank you, Kiki says, you're a beautiful lady. Don't ever let anyone drag your day. Thank you. Thanks, Kiki. I really appreciate you. Drag you down. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I just don't want that for anybody. Any of the things that I saw over the past 4 days were not things that I really like to see at all. And it wasn't anything with true crime. It was all the trauma stuff. And I saw a comment that I really thought was a good one, and this person said, with all of these new trauma channels popping up, there's not a whole lot of true crime going on. And I thought, wow, that could really ruin true crime on YouTube. Now everybody has the right to do what they want on their channel, and we have that creative freedom, which is wonderful, in my opinion. I'm all for it. Thank you, Meg. Thank you. Too many crazies. Yes, too many crazies. Too many crazies. Oh gosh, I'm sorry about the Little Red's gonna get me, I bet you, because Ooh, new nails. What'd you do to your nails, Kiki? I switched mine over, but I put on the same style of the ones I had. Somehow, now this was another thing, like somehow, Jules, there's codes on all the doors. And so, and I took pictures of all of them, or like not all of them, but the majority of them. But yeah, somehow, and I don't know if maybe somebody was told something and they, I don't know. But every door is coded, or has a code lock on it. Um, thank you, Meg. Aw, thank you. Thanks, Holly S. Yeah, it was tough today. I'll tell you, there was a lot of, um, really sad cases, right? In that arena, a lot of little kids involved, and it's tough. Oh wow, Judith Albert says, I have a permanent no contact order that a judge imposed against someone who showed up at my house and criminally trespassed, even told the cops she wasn't leaving. Oh my goodness. Oh no. I'm so sorry. I'm glad you got the permanent order. And see, they did grant me a permanent order, which is fantastic. And I couldn't be, you know, more happy about that, because that it does give me a peace of mind. And I'm glad that you have that. I am, because, you know, they did, and they scared one of the guys, and they were joking about it in the car, and they said that he was punching his butt, and I still don't know what that means, but they said it in the video. They were just in the laundry rooms, and they were trying to post posters of me, like, wanted, which is I think really dangerous too, and I did kind of stress that as well. Oh my goodness, Babs says, I have a stalker who shows up every now and then to just let me know he's around. Oh my gosh, it's an uneasy feeling, like PTSD, whenever he lets me know he's been near. Oh gosh, it's got to be unnerving. My gosh. Ugh. And see, they just want to have that control over you. And that was, like, I think the most important thing for me to take kind of a little bit of that back, right? Because I'm not going to have control over everything either, but enough to where I can feel safe in my own environment. Um, yeah, Meg, all of those places, all of those. Um, I am not sure how they got in. One of the locks was, the keypads was busted, and it wasn't busted before all of this. So again, I do not have proof, and that was something that he said was debunked. But um, you know, either way, it's going into the facilities themselves, coming onto the property, all of that stuff. Oh gosh, yeah, Judith, that would be I think, very disturbing. Because like, whenever somebody won't stop, um, and I will say that, um, again, we'll go over this more in a members, but it was really heavily orchestrated by others as well. This was not just these people, but when you're dealing with multiple states, right? That's why you have to go to the FBI, because they have a cyber stalking division there. But then if it's going on locally, then you have a little bit more protection that you can put yourself in. Oh, Meg, that was a very uncomfortable moment in the courtroom, but was a direct quote. Um, Yeah, and see the office was not happy, and they were like, how is he getting into the buildings?" And I'm like, "I have no idea." I was like, "You'll have to go back and look on the cameras and stuff." But I told them I'm gonna go get a protection order. It is tricky um, when it comes to documenting, because you really don't want to go for that protection order too soon. You can always do a supplemental, but you want to make sure that something has occurred in order for you to get that protection order. And so that's why I had to wait, right? And that's why I had to make the first reports on them and what they were threatening to do. And then when they followed through on those threats, I made the other report, and then I could initiate, because at that point they had already put video on, um, that they were going. I mean, I just gave the transcripts and their words, right? And that was what ultimately swayed the judge's opinion. Yeah, I hope so, Carla. And I would imagine that would be something that maybe, again, like after sleep and you know good hearty bowl of whatever you have for breakfast or whatever, and you might feel a little bit like, hey, this probably needs to end, but you just never know how crazy people can be, you know. But yeah, oh, I know, hell yes, yeah. And believe me, the judge was, not pleased with those statements. And then I also wanted to just kind of put it out there too. Um, you know, I was the petitioner, right? And then they were the respondents. So in that situation, it's not as if at all that I'm presumed to be right or truthful or anything like that, right? That's why you have the hearing and the judge gets to, discuss this and talk with you and listen, right? And then he can make his best judgment on the situation. But in this situation, especially with the protection order being granted temporarily, I was the one that, had already proved my case. So I was the victim, right? I hate that. But in this situation, that's the truth of it, right? And so I was the one that initiated this, and made the reports. So I had already really proved my case enough to get the temporary order. When they came in, they needed to prove that that's not what they were doing. And in fact, they could not do that. And so that's why they were ultimately, the orders went through indefinitely. So that means, I don't have to go and renew it or anything like that, which is good. Um, Well, and see that's another huge part of it, Mom, and I'm so glad that you brought that up. They can influence their viewers and they can't control them to make, or to me, that's a problem. Some things are far, and you can only give so much grace before it's too risky, to your own safety, in my opinion. Yeah, I agree with that too. And I'm so glad that you brought it up, because honestly, the influence and the people and the hatred that it generates and that it really incites is one of the scarier parts of it, right? Because, you know, um, it's kind of like they're all getting together like, "Oh yeah, get her, get her, get her. She has consequences for her actions. I didn't do anything. I'm up here doing my show, right? And then somebody came to my house and was threatening me to come here, and then they did. That's what happened. But thanks, Judith. Yeah, and it's so beautiful down here in Florida, guys. I have to tell you, I have not had any type of like rude interactions with anyone here at all, which is the weirdest thing, right? Because you would think, everywhere there's people and people are grumpy, and I'm grumpy too sometimes, and I might get into an altercation, but Everyone is so kind here, and I really have enjoyed being here. And so I'm just so glad that I can feel safe, and again, like I don't have to worry about some, those kinds of things. Um, yeah, I agree, Meg. And that is, well, and that's another scary aspect of it too, Jules, because if somebody does, say, decide to take matters into their own hands and go to somebody's property, like where it's a stand your ground state, yeah, then that can be so dangerous, right? Those were kind of the analogies that I was trying to bring in. Um, but, the judge, I mean, I can't underestimate his experience either. Because like I said, he just really did a good job of laying it all out and why he was making the decision that he was going to make. And that was in the very beginning, right off the bat. He was like trying to find out what kind of was going on here, if it was just something where we were beefing back and forth online, or was it in fact cyber stalking and harassment. And he found that it absolutely was on both of their behalves. And I was glad that he understood. The raid wasp spray. Oh my goodness, that's so smart, Babs. And I think all of us, even men, I hate to tell a man how to protect themselves, but like, for women especially, I think pepper spray, or they have the ones that kind of shoot out. Somebody had recommended that, and I was like, wow, I don't know if I should be, handling that, um but it is a good thing, because you just never know at any given time what could happen. So Holly, yes, I agree. Babs. The raid wasp spray. And you do, and that comes with the hypervigilance, right, of like the PTSD that happens. And I think that's if I could ever pick a favorite symptom of that, it probably would be that, or, effect of that, would be the hypervigilance, because you do kind of become more aware of your surroundings. Especially when I was younger, I was just kind of like oblivious and a little ditzy, like, oh, whatever, da da da, going along, not really watching, around my surroundings and things like that. And then you kind of learn to do that, right? Just to survive. I like that. That's cute. Jill says we have a sign that says this property is protected by God, guns, and canines. Trespass, and you'll meet all of the above. That's funny. Oh my goodness. Oh, could you imagine being, greeted by Gator? Oh boy. I mean, he's a cutie, but I bet you not if you go in his house in the middle of the night and he doesn't know who you are, or probably any time of the day or night. Um, Yeah, that is so cute. And you have to be that way. Aw, thanks for being here, Little Red. I do that too, though. Sometimes I'm just in the bushes kind of watching. Um, yeah, and see the that's kind of the bad part of it, right, Babs, is the um Facebook or something like that, because it's like, traditionally people, if they wanted to kind of check up on you, they have to drive by your house, but now they could just kind of drive by your Facebook and look, or Instagram, you know, and it's important to kind of keep those things privatized and things too, because it is so hard. But sometimes people will have other people friend you, or they'll look from their phone if they're blocked and things. There's ways around things, which is not always good for someone who doesn't want to stop. Um, Exactly, Babs. Well said. Ain't nobody got time for these crazies. Some just ain't right in the head. Yeah, exactly. And that's it too. And you don't know what really they're going to do, or what they may, I mean, get upset about or something like that. Um, so, but I do want to switch years here. Little Miss Sharon says, in my opinion, I think there are great true crime channels like yours. Oh, thank you, Little Miss Sharon. Thank you. That stick with the facts so true crime will survive. Yeah, I think so too. And I was watching a little bit of Justin's live before I came up. Well, before my daughter had called me, and he was really kind of talking about some of those important aspects of true crime and just kind of really being careful with the sources because of AI. I guess there was like a really close video. Thank you, Anne. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Um, in Jack and Lily's case, that it looked really legitimate, but it wasn't, and it was all AI. And it can go for good or bad. Um, yes, they did. They were present, Babs. Yeah, yeah, they were. Yeah. Holly S says, I'm scared more than ever that they'll get away with it. Yeah, I mean, and it is, and it's coming to a more and more frustrating part of, I mean, in any of the cases, even, because we have Malaya alleging that, Daniel's not really looking for the kids. We have Daniel pointing the finger at Malaya and saying, she won't talk. She's hiding out. She's keeping Meadow. I did see this from a criming shame. Oh, maybe I needed to upload that one. So just so you guys know, I didn't decorate this myself. But it looks like Daniel Martell did get a visit with Meadow, and she just looks exactly like him. I'm just gonna put it out there. So that's little Meadow, and she is as cute as she can be. And I'm sure at this time she's so little, but I'm sure it's hard for her, right? Because she's got her brother and sissy are gone, and so it's got to be rough on that little one. I don't know, Holly, and the crazy part is like the continuing on and on, because typically when things like that happen, it'll kind of, reasonable people will kind of scale back and kind of regroup and, be more self-aware about it, but that didn't happen here, so it is a little bit. Aw, thanks, Kiki. Yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. Hey, Tina girl. I Tina, I'm gonna go into it another time because there is more to all of this. You know, in terms of that they were, in my opinion, put up to this. Um, but it's a long kind of drawn out thing, and I'd really like to present you guys with a little bit more um some receipts when we talk about it. That way it's not just me alleging things without showing you exactly what I'm talking about. But we will go over it because there is when I think about any type of an injustice in this situation that may have happened was probably in the very beginning when this person took information from one source and decided to run with it instead of actually doing their own research and understanding that this other person had ulterior motives. And so there's a lot more to it, but I would, um, I'd rather go over it a different time. And yeah, it does, unfortunately, Tina girl, it does pertain to me talking about, Sebastian Summer. Unfortunately, that's part of it, but that's not the root cause of it. And that wasn't the person who initiated these attacks on me initially, but then they brought this other person in because of his location, because of their location and where they live. and they volunteered to take over the cyber stalking and harassment. And unfortunately, that's another thing they kind of got to look within on. Yeah, that's exactly it, Meg. And yes, fucking no, exactly. And and the judge did see value in that being very dangerous. Um, and among other things, saying that I'm wanted for manslaughter or murder, saying that about, my boyfriend. It was just weird. It's very weird. It's just very odd behavior, because it's not true, and then it's just kind of sad that they don't realize that, and they're trying really extremely hard, right? I mean, they're just going at it like that little engine that could, buddy, and really at the end of the day, it's based on lies and people that just um, are upset about the Nancy Grace photo, and they said that in the he explained that and lined that out as well. So they lined out their motives well. They lined out the plot plan, whatever they were going to do, the threats, and then they carried it out. So yeah, and that's part of it. That's a big part of it, Holly. But I want to have something to show you all when I do present that. But Holly says, in my opinion, none of these people cared about Sebastian. Some of them really had me fooled. Me too. Me too. And it's not fair, Oh, little Miss Sharon, you're so sweet. Thank you. Aw. I'm not even gonna read that. You got me blushing over here. Thanks. You're so sweet. But um, yeah, it's nothing good can come of it. And if you don't like someone, typically just stay away from them. Don't bother them. Don't, ignore them. Well, and that's a good point, Jules, because that was like what they were trying to turn in, it looked like. Because, since neither one of us had representation, we represented ourselves, right? Which, you know what they say, if a client or what is it? I'm probably going to botch the quote, but it's like, a person who represents themselves has a fool for a client, and that is what it comes down to. But again, in my position, I had already proved, some of what I was putting forth to the court. And so it was really up to him to say, oh, no, Your Honor, I never showed up to her residence, or no, I never, that this never happened. She's not being truthful. But in fact, they documented it all for me. But you're so right. The problem is with people paying for websites like Truthfinder or whatever, you still don't get the accurate information. It's scary and dangerous. Yeah, and it'll link you to like past people too, like especially if you've been married to somebody for a great deal of time, things like that. And it is and they're all just like web crawlers, so they just like crawl for information and they pull it in from wherever they can. Um, you know, and that's the issue with them, Meg, is that they still don't think they did anything wrong. I don't think they get it. But the court proceedings were recorded. So the beauty part is if they ever really wanted to, get those records and listen to them back, then they could figure it out maybe a little easier. I know sometimes it's tough when you're in the situation. That's why they tell people, like, if you go to the doctor and you're going for something serious, bring someone with you, because you might not be listening completely, because you might be stressed out in that situation. That can be the same in court, in my opinion. Momming it up says, Jules, that's why I go to the courts and pull the records. So many real criminals never know, because they don't show up, and those who aren't bad do show up. Oh, that's a really good point, Mommin. Yeah, I didn't think about that, but you're right. Absolutely. because typically they're not going to do the right thing. And I was glad everybody, showed today and everything. We got it taken care of. That was another good part of it. But you're right. A lot of times, well, even in Audrey Cunningham's situation, the little girl who the grandparents had a guy like living on their property, but because he wasn't a registered RO, but he had been an RO before, um, or excuse me, he had been an SO before. um, because of that, she was in danger, right? And he was like babysitting her and things like that. And he should have never had access, but they didn't know any better, right? So they knew what they were doing was wrong, Carla. They did. Oh yeah, no doubt about it. Any normal person would get that. Hey, Deafening Silence, thanks for being here. Barry Morphew. Yeah, that's another case that's out there, Sasha, that I've been kind of looking at as well, because I did follow it a little bit, but I know that's coming back. And then, of course, I went down the Sherry Papini rabbit hole, or, I'd like to talk about that one night with you guys. It'd be kind of interesting to go over some of the statements to the FBI and then some of the statements she's trying to make now, in retrospect. Oh, thank you, Allegedly Innocent. Good to see you. It's so good to see you. I always go over and watch your videos on the replay, and I try to. So, good to have you. I'm glad. Oh, that's funny, Judith. I'm glad when you disappear, you reappear. We need that to happen with these kids. My goodness. Oh boy. There you go. Anne's got it. She says, I have pepper spray and a stun flashlight. Yeah, those are the things, right? Those are the things that we need. We really do. Because, you just never know when somebody might come up and try to mug you, or, just anything. But it's good to protect yourself and be aware of your surroundings. Oh, God, yes, Meg. Yes. Well, guys, I want to switch gears a little. Hey, Hope Floats. I want to switch to Sebastian fully kind of over. Thanks, Deafening Silence. I really appreciate you. Yeah, and that's all that's all I want to do is talk about the kids up here, about Sebastian, Summer. I really want to do more of a deep dive on Harmony. She's still missing, you know. Another really interesting case is the Timothy Pitson case. He is still out there missing too. A lot of the same elements, as a matter of fact, that we see, you know. Well, and that's the problem, Allegedly Innocent. I agree. I think that they only cared about clicks and views. That's why they always fall back into the drama. Yeah, it's really easy to do, right? Because it's so much easier to kind of like get up here and, just talk or whatever, or vent even. Sometimes I'm sure maybe it makes them feel good to vent a little bit if they're angry about something they saw or heard or something somebody did. But it's a lot. It's a lot more difficult to get up here and talk about things that matter. Yeah, and I just can't condone. No, Brittany does not deserve that. None of that is okay. It's just not. But I don't get myself too involved in it. Actually, yes. Josh from the Lab After Dark says, did anyone happen to ask for money for a lawyer but showed up without one? Yes, actually, 2 people did just that. That's why I kind of said that. I was like, if you give the money, you might not expect it to be spent on what it was intended for. Um, and because they didn't say like, hey, we raised only $200 and we didn't have enough, so we kind of just put that aside and now we're needing more. It was just like they started over, again at zero. And then I know there was another creator that had sent over some money. So, but the thing about the paperwork too, that they were wanting to file, there are stipulations on that motion where, there had to have been something that happened, like a mistake in the trial, or I guess it would be more of a hearing, a mistake in the hearing, or new evidence that has come about that the judge has not been able to hear, things of that nature. But that's my understanding. So, I don't foresee us being back in court, even if they did get enough for representation. And honestly, that's what you kind of have to do that off the bat. In this case, I don't really think it would have mattered, because the bottom line for the judge was really that it was a prolonged thing. So like for harassment, it can't just be like one thing, right? It has to be many things kind of adding up. And same thing with stalking. Like if they had only just found out where I lived and, maybe shared it on their page or something like that. But the fact that they came here and they were in private buildings, there, it was brought up about trespassing. Yeah. I think I did hear something like that. Joel says, I don't really ever agree with Tim, but he said that the field trip was stupid. I'd have to agree with that too. Yeah. Well, it's a lot of time out of your day, it just is. It's, I don't know. You wouldn't catch my ass doing that. I just don't have time for it. And I guess maybe I'm lazy or something. I'm like, no, probably not. Babs. I'm glad you don't know, Babs. It was really bad. It was hard to watch. Like, and then watching it back, I had to get like, all the information. And I was like, so they probably have been here before, since they kind of know like about the community and things. And it doesn't help when you lie to the judge and tell the judge that the reason why you were here was because you wanted to find out about an RV spot, but that's not what their video showed at all. He does name drop SF as well as the wells and the feet. Yeah. Yeah. And he did do that today as well, but the judge was like, he didn't really like care. You know what I mean? He that part was irrelevant to him. On either side of the aisle, he kind of wanted to know how we knew each other, right? But we really don't know each other, obviously. So, it is hard, Holly. Yes, it is. It's not easy. Holly S says, I had no idea it was that hard to get an RO. It's not, they don't make it easy. And they really want a lot of proof, right? Luckily I had the transcripts and I just printed those out, because you can't get them video proof of anything, as was discussed. And I said I would concur. The flash drives that they told us to bring, because I don't know if they were told this, but I was, and because I said, well, how do I bring video? And they said you have to get a flash drive. And so I said, okay. So I went and got a flash drive and had it on there ready to go. But you have to bring a device with you to play it on. So I guess you could have just used your phone at that rate. But again, the judge isn't going to want to listen to 2 hours of a live, 3 hours of 7 different lives. Like, they don't want to do that. They want the information, boom, 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 right there. And so the transcripts were handy, in proving what was said and done. The screenshots of pictures of them hanging stuff or putting it in the bathroom stalls. that sort of thing was really handy too, because obviously it was showing them do that. ROs do have teeth, allegedly innocent, and thank you for saying that. I think that's a really important point to bring up, because people will say, it's just a piece of paper, or what am I supposed to do? Paper cut them with this. What is this? But honestly, what it does is it makes it so you're safer, and so is the rest of the community, because especially in Florida, they put in certain stipulations, which I was not aware of until now, in terms of firearms, and if the parties have them, they are to surrender those. And so if they are dangerous, then those dangerous weapons are taken from them if they are in their possession, which is very important when you're dealing with somebody who obviously doesn't want to stop, and they keep going and going and going. Yes, hope floats. Yes, there was. So I have the full orders of protection for an indefinite amount of time, so for forever. Because when they asked me if I wanted to, continue forward, and I said yes, and they said, how long would you like it for? And I said, just make it for forever, because I don't anticipate ever wanting to make contact with these people ever. I never wanted to, nor do I want ever want to. I believe the feeling is mutual. I could be getting the wrong vibe, allegedly, in my opinion. Not saying that, just saying that, in the way that I feel is like, please, like, stay away by all means. I never want to deal with you again. And again, I think once the truth starts coming out, once I can show some of these receipts as well, I think that it'll make a little bit more sense, and the misplaced anger might even be taken off of me and put onto the appropriate parties who have started all of this behind the scenes. Because it's really cute how they did it, but it's not going to stay under wraps for long, especially now that there are two people being held accountable for their actions based on what they were told, and the stuff that they were doing behind the scenes. So I hope that those people, hey, C. Taylor, I hope that those people don't think that they're going to get off the hook. I saw one of them in the chat today, and you know who you are. So I know that you think that you're cute and that you got other people in trouble for your dirty deeds, but you will be brought to light, just not today. So, thank you, Josh. Josh says, anytime Meg, she deserves to be supported. These people are lunatics. I appreciate that very, very, very much. And, it's people like Josh, and all of you guys, I mean, it's not easy to be, I was listening to something on the way to court. You guys know I love Brene Brown. But she was talking about, like, public humiliation, why people do it, what to do about it, that sort of thing. A lot of the things that she was saying make sense, but that's really, I think, what the goal was too, and just to kind of put the fear in me, like, maybe that I wouldn't talk online anymore, or, whatever it was. But like I said, I have some theories to share. Well, and that's another facet of it, allegedly innocent. Thank you. Josh, these people are absolute lunatics. Dr. B can tell you to take personality disorders this extreme seriously. I absolutely agree with that. And that's kind of, I think, that disconnect, or why it's not being understood why this action was taken in the first place, or why the judge, granted it. And I think that's a big part of it. Well, and that's the thing. They're just taking, that was another thing that I'm shocked, because it's like people aren't piecing it together. Give the money back, dummies. Yeah, because it's like, but didn't you guys already, like, receive funds from people? And see, I mean, there's been a lot that has come out, and reasons why they shouldn't be trusted, and they've been caught in many lies. And luckily the judge was like, no, that's not going to happen. Yeah, Josh says allegedly innocent. Oh yeah, definitely. I can see it with my own eyes. Yeah, and I mean it's been all over, right? It's like every time you turn around, somebody, is being drugged or dogged out or, Hope floats says trash in the Three Stooges. That's funny. Well, and a lot of times too, people will tell on themselves, and that's what they did. Like I didn't have to prove anything other than just showing what they posted, the progression and how it worked, and you know, um, Meg, that's so true, and that takes it takes a strong person. Absolutely agree, 100. I know you stand for what's right. You don't cower. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Meg. That's so well said. Um, and you can't be afraid that just because like you say something to stick up for somebody that you're going to get it too, because you probably will. That was a big thing that Brene was saying even today. But that's why most people will like just allow for it and they won't do anything about it. But really, it's important to you know to still do that, and not participate in the crap. So, and I appreciate you for doing that, Josh, and I appreciate all of you guys too, because I've seen people like in chats be very respectful and disagree with people and be like, no, you're wrong, or that's not right to do to somebody, and I agree. Um, Yes, yeah. That was why I I think that I actually was able to get the petition granted for the wife was because of um the lie to the judge, her saying like, "Oh yeah, I was just there to check out to see if I could put my RV there." Um and the judge was like, "Okay, no," but and he knew that that was a lie. And then also, I told him, I said, you know, I I don't think that he has a driver's license, and that's the person who's driving him here. And she also participated in it as well, so yeah. And see, Tina girl, I know, and I understand where you're coming from. She says I understand why she does it too. That's why I don't say anything to her, and I do support her. I love watching her true crime, but I want to be done with all the drama. That's all. Yeah, yeah. And I'm kind of assuming on who you're talking about. Um, there it's hard not to. I will tell you guys, like, there would be so many times where I would have to be talked off the ledge by good people. And, I'm like, I'm fixing to get up there and say something. And, no, no, calm down, keep it easy. And it's like, because it is easy. It's really easy to just like come up here and maybe call people names or be like, you're stupid, which, I mean, obviously, if it fits. Um, but it is harder to kind of just not say anything. It's very difficult, especially the level that it's gotten to with that particular person. There's just nothing good about it. Yeah, that's the problem. Allegedly innocent, worse still, Holly, is some of the side chat really exit on. They want disaster to happen. Yeah, yeah. And I don't know if that comes from like our reality TV days or something, like our failed MTV days as a generation. Hey, meow. Why we like to watch it. But it is part of the viewership part. It is, and I'm guilty of it too. I'll be like, "Oh gosh, what's going on now?" I'll go over there and look, and pray that I'll get gifted a membership. Um, Megan else says, "I'm so proud of you, lady. There are a lot of women who would have been too scared to do what you did. I hope her actions today can help at least one woman or man. Thank you, Meg. Yeah. Yeah. I was nervous, guys. I won't lie. I mean, anytime court happens, you're just kind of like, oh, on edge. And you're like, I just want this to be over with. And I don't want to be here. And, hey, meow. Lady went in court with receipts, and they're like, Your Honor. I mean, I had a lot of them. I did. I had a lot because it was like progressive, right? And some of it he didn't even, worry about. I'm just like, here's this, here's this. And, I think, like I said, again, the bottom line was just, hey, don't go over there anymore. And they weren't really understanding. I think that if they would have said, Your Honor, we're going to go ahead and, we didn't ever intend on scaring this lady, and we won't ever go there again, I think the outcome would have been a little bit different. But since he was, in my opinion, trying really, really hard to make his case, it just probably fell flat, in my opinion. Thank you, Hope Floats. Hope Floats says, I'm very proud of you, Lady Freedom, because look what happened to the YouTuber this week. So sad. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And even, Finny and Bubbly, right? They had 4 kids, guys, just like beautiful kids. They were beautiful people from all accounts, yeah, I don't want anything bad ever to happen to that level. Lab After Dark says, Lady Freedom, don't engage with them. If they show up, lock the doors, call the cops, and make it sound urgent, because it is. Yeah, I will, Josh. And I so appreciate that, and I've taken it seriously. And I do think it's important to do that, especially the history, and I really appreciate that too, because, well, Tina Girl, SF has a reason not to like me because of the picture that I enhanced. So I think that was his motive for helping, if he did. Thanks, Babs. Thank you. You guys are great. And, again, I just want to just make it known that it doesn't have to go back and forth like the way it does. Because it is serious. Like Josh said, you don't know what these people are thinking or capable of. You could say one little thing, it has set them off. An emu. Jules says, random funny fact, there's been an emu running around loose in my county for a month now because no one has been able to catch it. That makes me think of the Limu Emu commercial. That's funny. Oh my gosh. That's great. Meg. Laura Lodge was very eye-opening, Jules. I agree. There was like a lot being said, but nothing being said, right? And questions being asked and nothing. And then, I'm a private investigator, but I can't tell you where my own client was, kind of a thing. Hey, perfectly imperfect boy mom, good to have you. No, oh gosh. Well, and I messed with the notification because I put it on 10:45, and then I was trying to be early, and then my daughter called me. I was like, oh, we're gonna be talking for a minute. Allegedly innocent says, with the RO, if they just walk by your house, you can call 911 and they will get arrested on site. No questions asked. You do not even have to engage with them. Yes, absolutely. And the good thing is I don't live on like a subdivision, so it's all private where I live. But you're right. You are so right. They even have like a direct non-emergency number that they had given me before too. Yes, I did, Jules. Yeah, Meg. Me too. Because I mean, you just don't know. And there was a lot of you know, anger. Um, right. Babs, we never see the red flags when they're right there. I've been there too. I'm like, oh no, what happened? Why? And everything. Right? The fixer in us. It's the fixer. Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. It'll be under wraps for about 40 more minutes, Josh. Okay, guys, so I am really gonna switch over gears now. Me too, Holly. Yes. That way we don't have to bother with it, because I know they don't want to see me again. I don't want to see them again. We're like totally on the same page with that. And C. Taylor, about Brene. I love Brene. One of my really great counselors that I really, she was actually a student and she was so good. And I was like, don't ever get bogged down or like, bitter, because she introduced me to Brene, helped me tremendously. Yeah. Well, Judith, I agree. I agree with what you're saying. I do. I think it's really tough, you know, um, because I know it's hard with like narcissism. I see a lot of narcissist comments and things. Judith says I'm going to have to go. Diagnosing people without assessment is wrong, and I don't care if you're a psychologist or psychiatrist. It's perpetuating the stigmatism of personality disorders. And I do agree with what you're saying. And I will put that out there too. Like we are not doctors. Now there are ways of kind of determining, but you can't diagnose somebody. I completely agree with what you're saying, Judith. Um, oh, thanks, Jules. Thank you. She says Tina was talking about someone else. Okay, good. I was like the two ladies. Whoa, sorry guys. Okay, sorry. He's really loud. He has a really loud bark. I'm sorry if anybody's ears were physically abused. Yeah, and Holly, the judge he was really nice. I think he was just kind of like over it at that point when that had happened. That was at the end. Because basically the two of us were, when I say the two of us, it was me and respondent WB. And he just was like, um, said his portion right, and then she had a chance to say her portion, because they did consolidate the cases somewhat, for the court's time and everything. And basically the judge was like, how does his wife come into play with this? And so I explained the situation there, and then I think once that happened they were like, you know Sammy says, what are you talking about? I'm like, hey, Sammy, just this RO business. But um, oh, good. Love you too, Judith. Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying, girl. I do. I do. Narcissism is the one that I see the most of nowadays. But then I'm wondering, like, is there more narcissists on the planet? Possibly. But, or maybe we have more awareness. I don't know. Thank you, Holly S. Hey, Poppy Love, good to see you. Um, but yeah, hey, Laura, good to see you. Welcome in, everyone. That is true. That is true. The lady doth protest too much. The guilty always protest louder and try to prove. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah, I agree with that completely. And it is difficult. Like they tell you before, they're like, don't interrupt others. And there was some of that going on the other side, which doesn't make them happy, and that's why they try to tell you in the beginning, don't do that, you know? Um, hey meow, hey meow. Everything went really well, went really well. Yeah, that's a yeah, deafening silence says, by making his case, you mean instead of saying sorry, was trying to explain his reasons why he was doing it for, or just lying about it. Just crazy. Sorry if I misunderstood. Yeah, so basically they were just making up excuses like, see, she does have all this, like all these warrants, and it was like a page like that thick or something, like candidate to the judge, and they're like, he's like, okay. Because I mean, obviously I don't have that, so I don't even know what it was printed up, but they showed it to me and I was like, yeah, you could show it to him. I don't know what they have there. Um, excuse me, there was another thing too with that. Um, oh, they were, because I told in my paperwork in my complaint, I was like, this has caused some issues, um, on my channel because they're defaming me, and so, but that part again was not part of this. So they said that they went to like a website and found my report card, which all of us creators, we kind of know that we have analytics that are sent to us Mondays, I believe. But you can look at your analytics at any time and see kind of how your channel is doing, how many members you have, watch time, all of that stuff. And then they turned that in, and the judge was like, well, that's for a different venue, right? Because basically today was just the order of protection, so that way they can't come within so many feet of me, or um, you know my park in general, that where I live. um Oh my god, Jules, I did see a photo come through on the top. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna laugh so hard, I just know it. I love emus. I think they're funny. They crack me up. No, and SF, like I said, he's got ulterior motives. I know he does not like me. Meg, Meg, that's funny. You inspired my thumbnail, Meg. Oh my goodness. Um, but it is confusing because it's like all, civil, and then, like I said, um, with the other things, that's more of like a defamation slander thing that would be handled separately, with a lawsuit, which, obviously that's not something, my safety was first, that was the biggest thing for me. And then, if it comes to that, I hope it doesn't have to go to that. But I've definitely weighed my options when it comes to that. Hey, Blessed, good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Hey, Debbie says what? How are you? Mm, yeah, yeah, absolutely. Deafening silence. That's really well said, says Babs. Well done. Um, know how I know how difficult that must have been for you, sweetheart, but once you have done it, it's a relief and empowerment, and it's worth it. God bless you. Absolutely. Yeah, and it does make you feel better that you could do something about it, right? Cuz it's hard to just sit there and be like, well, I got to take all this crap and it's just loading on. The internet can be really rough, I mean, we all know that. So, but it doesn't have to be that way. We could use it for good. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate your support so much. Let's change gears over to Sebastian though, because um, Hindsight, Mama Risa, and BMW Coupe have come up with um, this video showing the phone situation with Katie, right? And I told you guys, when I initially saw it, people were pointing it out to me, and they're like, "Look, she's got another phone. She's got another phone." And I'm like, "No, I don't think so. I think that's the flicker from this, or maybe the light up top is." Reflecting off of this or that. And I wasn't really on board with it until I looked again and again and slowed it down. I'm like, oh, I'll be darned. But this is really great. This is, oh, thank you, Holly S, for the green hearts. This is awesome, guys. So I'm going to play it. It doesn't have music, right? Or anything. It's just going to be, you know, a silent video, but then I slowed it down so we can kind of look a little bit closer to. Oh, I'm all over the place back here in the studio. Okay. So I'll play this here. So we do see the bill was being paid at the table, right, on the little kiosk thing, or the POS, point of sale. And so, and you know, that's the one that Sebastian pointed to when they came in and sat down, and Katie just kind of like flung the menu across the table, in my opinion. And he didn't play any of the games, because typically there's like games on there as well. It's not just to play the video or play a video game or pay the bill. So you could see Katie kind of navigating through that. And then the rose gold cell phone on the right side of the table, she picks it up to put it in her left rear pants pocket, but pulls it out and puts it into her right front pants pocket instead. Or was it a swap? I mean, she's moving around quite a bit, right? The waitress is taking the plate away. She's taking her napkin off her lap. That was another thing I was thinking she was kind of jacking around with, was her napkin on her lap. Because at first I'm like, why is she, wiping her pants? But she had a black napkin on her lap that she was using. But you also see, okay, again, see her hands. And you can see her messing with her pockets. And then switching over. Really, really interesting. And then is there another phone showing in her left pocket? She touches both jacket pockets, which appear full. And then we see the rose gold phone sticking out of her right front pants pocket, allegedly easily accessible. Right. And she is really messing around in her pockets a lot. Again, maybe something could be nothing, but I think it is something. Because you see it right here. And again, we don't see any indication that any of these notifications are going to her watch, because it's dark, and I would think it would be lighting up. And you guys might have to help me with that technology, because I don't have an Apple Watch. And then you can see it here, another phone, front left jacket pocket. And I mean, Katie had quite a bit of phones. There were phones registered to them as well. Both front jacket pockets appear full. And they do. She's got a lot going on there. And then she was taking pictures of Sebastian at the table, don't forget, allegedly sending them to Chris. And now we see the rose gold phone front right pants pocket, excuse me. So she's got pockets in her pants, pockets in her hoodie. Now, 1 minute and 44 seconds later, okay, the rose gold phone appears, and it appears to be in Yellow Jacket's hands. Now, again, with the shoes, 1 minute 44, and then the same rose gold phone, which appears to be the same one that Katie was fiddling with in her pockets, appears. And again, and I won't show it again, because it's on my channel. You can just go back to one of the videos. I've kind of showed it a couple times, and we went over it. But it is in my opinion that the Yellow Jacket has a picture or a video of Sebastian sitting at the Texas Roadhouse on the phone that he has in his possession. And it's very clear. And I know a lot of times people are like, well, I can't really make it out. And I know it's kind of tough to see. But I do think that it's absolutely Sebastian that's on this person's phone. And then it just kind of leaves the question, well, why is it? And, how did it get there? And then, seeing, and you may have to zoom in on this one, guys, because I know it's a little bit harder to see. But that's when the image comes into the clearest view. Now, it's hard to decipher, in my opinion, is whether it's a single image or if it is a video. But you can definitely see the background in the photo, which appears to be the same background as the Texas Roadhouse. So it's definitely something to question. And of course, the how is really what I was so impressed with, that our friends here, Hindsight 2002, did with this video. And also Mama Risa and BMW Coupe, because obviously we're not sure why this guy would have Sebastian in the first place on a phone in his possession, but how did he get it in his possession, would be another question. And I think that they've proven how that happened. It looks like Katie had a couple of different phones that she was working with here. Bab said she's tapping / feeling both jacket pockets. Yeah, there's a lot of activity there. And what's very suspicious to me, Babs, absolutely, with her doing that, is that it seems like she's preparing to give the proper phone to someone, right? She's making sure that she's not giving that person the wrong phone, but she's also being very careful to conceal where she's putting the phone, right? So she's putting it into her pocket, and she knows which pocket it is in for an easy handoff, in my opinion. Thank you, Kiki. 2025 True Crime says most Apple Watches don't need a phone nearby for it to work. Would the screen necessarily always light up, though, if it was connected? Like, would it be sending notifications? I get that you could probably, set them to off, but what do you guys think there? Because again, I know that it has the capabilities, obviously, to connect with the phone, but it doesn't seem to be at this time. Oh, Debbie says, what says the shoes is my wow moment. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the shoes have always been very telling, right? They both look like they have brand new shoes, but they're just so oddly similar. Now, if it was a mom and a daughter, and I don't mean to sound sexist or anything when I say this, I might think, okay, they're wearing matching kicks, no big deal. But when it's a mother and a son, I don't know, because I don't have a son. But I don't think he'd want to be caught. If my hypothetical son would probably not want to be caught dead wearing the same pair of shoes as me. I'm just going to put it out there. And if I went to go buy even something that looked remotely the same, I would think he would be like, Mom, don't do that to me. What are you trying to do? Deafening Silence 2025 says, come on, Sumner County, even Stevie Wonder can spot the evidence in this case. It's just getting ridiculous now, in my opinion. I agree. And but see, this is what's so great about what they've done here, is they've really shown exactly how this could have happened, right? Which I was shocked. And then also the shoes is another really big indicator. We'll just watch again. Katie paying the bill, right? And everything looks kind of normal here until she starts fiddling around in the pockets so much. And, back and forth. And Yeah, Bab says, I've always felt yellow coat guy had something to do with all of this since the video. He had no purpose to be there. I agree. And I've honestly never seen this many transients in this type of a restaurant before. Um, I haven't, you know. Mr. and Mrs. E did a great video where they showed the layout of the Texas Roadhouse, the bushes, how far away they were from the parking, everything. I highly recommend their latest live that they did. They really break it down and show us and put it into perspective of what we're seeing in the activity that happened that night in terms of the layout of everything. There's a Starbucks nearby, so that would be another place where you would see people in and out, maybe not even necessarily grabbing anything or purchasing anything, but they may use the bathroom. They may even stop in to use the Wi-Fi, things like that. So, yeah, Hindsight, you guys are just amazing. This is amazing right here. Look, she's going back and forth. You know, the rose gold cell phone on the right side of the table. She picks it up. You know, now we see a closer view. I mean, it's just, it's right there. This is how. And in my opinion, this solidifies the theory that there was in fact a phone separate from Katie's actual phone that was probably given over to and handed into law enforcement. And she's definitely making sure that she doesn't screw this up, right? Because she only has that little window of time when they're in passing, right? And Sebastian is very observant. He is watching Katie like a hawk. I don't know if he had a feeling, you know, this is purely speculation. But in my opinion, Sebastian was on high alert just by his facial features, expressions, just by the way he's watching his mom. Here we go. Another phone, front left jacket pocket. Yeah, and Yellow Coat just kept walking back and forth. Why? Both front jacket pockets appear full. And she's checking them, right, when she gets up. Here we go. Rose gold phone, front right pants pocket. It appears to be rose gold to me, you know? So Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom says, not necessarily. Newer models can have their own line that works as a separate device linked to the cell phone. Oh, cool. Okay. Thanks, Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom. That's good to know. Well, and that very well could be. Debbie says, what says if all those people at the Texas Roadhouse were involved, then Sebastian may be alive unless an accident happened, in my opinion. I think it does speak to Sebastian still being out there, right? Especially when we think about, well, and I hate to keep bringing it back to like maybe a school or something. Now, the 3 a.m. lights, I've always kind of believed that there were, well, logistically for it to work, it would have had to been like at least 4 people, maybe 5. You know, but there could have been more than that. And I can't discount that, you know, until we know. No, you can have cell on your watch itself also. Okay, so you could, I see. Kiki says, looks like he's standing with hands in his pocket on the phone, in my opinion. Yeah. I mean, you can definitely see, and he's got more than one phone too from what we've watched in the other videos, and how many pockets he's utilizing also is very suspicious, you know? Yeah, in my opinion, she wasn't there to eat. Yeah, and why did they take him to the Texas Roadhouse if he does not like steak? You know, he likes to eat fish. I get they have salmon. Still, I don't know. Kathy Bartholomew says, in my opinion, I have seen her front left pocket light up, saw her reach for it on the Texas Roadhouse video put out by another creator. Weird things going on there. Okay, interesting, Kathy. Yeah, so, wow. And I'll tell you, people saw the flicker very early on in the footage, right? Or excuse me, when the footage was released. Um, it was very apparent that something was going on with Katie messing around a little bit too much under the table, on the side. Hindsight 2002 says, Kiki, I looked at the fob and it didn't match the jacket pocket item size. What are your thoughts? Oh, that's interesting. Hindsight, thank you. Didn't match it. Yes, thank you. I mean, really, because I was always wondering how did he get it? You know, I was thinking maybe he was photographing Sebastian, but then when you kind of looked at the photo and how it would have had to been taken, it had to have been taken from somebody that was sitting really close to him and across from him, right? Because it didn't look like a downward angle. We had talked about that when we analyzed before. The camera field of view wasn't matching up to what the camera was picking up that was on the phone that he had in his possession. So Kathy, Kiki says, Kathy, something in left. Yes. Never picked up the food, Detroit. That's my thing too. Never picked up the food, you know, because I was thinking that he was a door dasher or some sort of you know, delivery guy. Yeah. Bab says Lab After Dark. Yes, she's confirming to herself what is where in her pockets. Absolutely. She's making sure, right, that she doesn't mess this up, you know? Um yeah, she's being very careful, in my opinion. And you know, for whatever this was to have worked, it would have had to have been very strategic and well planned and thought out, right? And then I know that originally Dog was wanting us to look at the green hoodie. And again, there's a lot of controversy around the green hoodie, right? Because all of a sudden, when Green Hoodie was being mentioned and talked about, that's when law enforcement went and talked to Green Hoodie. They hadn't talked to Green Hoodie or investigated this person until December of 2024, when the Roadhouse video came out. And we still don't know the identity of the Green Hoodie. We just know that that person has been cleared, yet many in the case have not been, who are very close to the case. Ah, that's cute. Mama Dub says, Kiki, my older son has one and I was paying for it for a while. And so I wondered where the other number came from, and it was his watch. And then the two I have from my other children called Gizmos. Oh yeah, okay. That's funny. Well, and I didn't realize that you could have separate service. I thought it was just kind of linked to your phone. So that's interesting too. So she could have had that. It just kind of depends on how she had it set up, right? I did not see where she put her bank card, little Miss Sharon. But maybe Hindsight would know. Oh, that's interesting. Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom says the screen won't light up unless you lift it, or unless you lift your arm up and look at it. Okay, so it like recognizes when you kind of look or have your arm lifted rather. Technology. Oh, okay. Bab says Lady Freedom, thus her hands being forward when walking toward Green Hoodie and CP waiting beside the car, in my opinion. Yeah, so I did see the crouched, or I did see the video where it was alleged that somebody was crouching down near the vehicle. I could definitely see more movement in the vehicle that was parked next to Katie. So like if you're looking at it on the right side of her and then you had the open space. Um, that's another thing that Mr. and Mrs. E went over, was how narrow of a spot it would have been for someone to walk in between of the two cars, right? Which has always been really interesting to me because in my opinion, I just wouldn't walk in between of the cars if I had another more clear path around where I wouldn't have to squeeze through or worry about, especially if somebody's coming toward me, I'm not going to try to squeeze through with that person that I have no idea who they are, or anything like that. I'm not like a germaphobe or anything, but I also don't try to get close to people I don't know, especially that close. Um, you know, Hindsight says Kiki for her car since you did the research on the same type. But the fob for the car. Yeah, I gotcha. That's what I thought you were talking about, but I'm glad you confirmed. Thank you. And Suzanne, good to see you, Suzanne. Lady, I got a notification, but I didn't think it lights up. Or oh, I get the notification. Okay, so you'll get a notification, but it doesn't always light up. Because I was wondering, I never saw like activity from her iWatch, and I was always wondering about that. Um, and I was wondering if it's the same iWatch that she was seen wearing later that June when she was out at the Mexican restaurant. She's kind of like eating the chips and salsa. Um, Kiki says they're not very big at all, the fobs. Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom. Oh, well that's cute then. She says I would wear matching shoes with my son. I've actually shared shoes with my son since we wear the same size. Okay. Well, see, there was some speculation about maybe Katie wearing the same size as Sebastian. So, like, for instance, I think it's like a size down in women's, right? So like if you're a 10 in men's, you'd be a size 9 in women's. I'm sorry, Django is snoring his ass off. I don't know if you guys can hear it. He's over here really getting with it, sawing logs. And so sorry. But yeah, so if Katie say wore, and this is all speculative, guys, I don't know what size Katie wears. If she wore a size 9, um how am I trying to say this? I want to try to see if I'm actually making sense here. But like I say Sebastian wears a 10, would she be able to interchange shoes with him if she wore a size 9, right? Is that right? Um But see, I don't know, Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom. Like I've put on guys' shoes just to like go outside really quick and I'm like clunking around in them because they're way bigger than mine. But like, and I mean I don't have small feet either, but I'm just saying, um, I don't know. And then wasn't it alleged that Chris had a size 10? You know? So I don't know. I will always trust the dog. Jules says Canine Max tracked someone that night. In my opinion, Sebastian was walked out to the car by someone else, and someone walked back in the exact path, thinking it would fool a canine. That is really interesting. So kind of, yeah, okay. Yeah, and I agree, Jules. I mean, I think the dogs are very accurate in my opinion. I know some people are like 25% or there was all that talk. I agree with you. Trusting the dogs and then with K9 Max tracked someone that night, and I do remember that. And then they were saying non-scent specific, right? Um, so right, it could have been someone else that walked in the same path and tried to fool the scent or tried to, yeah, fool the canine. Thank you, Jules, for that because that's really important to remember. Um, okay, Kiki, thank you. So the fob was about 4 inches long and slender. Bab says, I agree, Jules. Yeah. Hey, Nunya New York business. Good to see you. Yeah. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Says, oh, wow, it's been a while, but glad to catch up with you. I wanted to say, in my opinion, I thought KP handed the phone over to Green Hoodie outside by the car. You know, she had to have handed something off, right? I mean, in my opinion, there'd be no other reason to kind of like go that path, right? Especially with somebody that you didn't know or weren't familiar with. And it's not like they like stood by the car for a minute. I mean, they did, but it's not like they were conversating enough to, I don't know. I still don't know if Katie knew this person or if it was just a setup to, you know, just really pass something off, right? Like they didn't really know each other, but she knew to look out for this person. And then obviously they're right there passing you next to your vehicle. Um, Town Chat Cafe says, well, in my opinion, she might be okay with wearing boys/guys shoes for her planning of what she is allegedly up to, in my opinion. Yeah, well, and that's why I was wondering about the shoes because they're so similar. I mean, they're definitely not the same ones, but and Jules, maybe you could help out with this one too. But if they were to switch shoes, would that make it so the dogs would pick up whoever's shoes they were wearing, or would they be confused by the two different scents, right? Because if somebody else wore them, and I don't mean to be like, gross or whatever, but like, if you wear them several times in a row, right? It's gonna get like your feet sweat and stuff in the shoes, and your scent's gonna be really in there. If somebody else switched shoes with you, would that throw everything off? I guess is the question. Um, oh yes, and I do have my notifications on for tomorrow. Yeah, that's my issue, Holly. And she says KP is one sneaky woman, in my opinion. Well, the looking around, right? She's looking and she's mysteriously looking, right? Like her eyes are squinted and, that sort of thing. And it does seem very ominous. And Jewel says, in my opinion, this will probably be unpopular. I truly do think Katie loves Sebastian. I think so too, Jules. I do. I truly do think that there is something else more behind the other custody case, in my opinion. I don't think Katie had a choice. Yeah, I grapple with that too, Jules, because there's a lot of, even a lot of the pictures that I've looked at, if I just sit there and look at them, right, and kind of try to take it out of my mind, maybe what I've thought in the past. There are a lot of the pictures where I look and Katie looks like she's a very proud mom, right? I mean, um, like any of us moms, if or dads too. I mean, I'm just speaking for moms because I'm a mom too. But it's like you just kind of look at your kids in a certain way, right? And you just have that like pride, right? Um, and I did see that with Katie. And I do remember Seth saying that she wasn't always like dismissive of Sebastian, but it became like that in the last bit here, right? The last couple of years or so. And I don't know that he gave a specific time frame, but something may have shifted there, or like you said, she may not have felt like she had a choice in it. But I agree with what you're saying, and there's no doubt in my mind, like whatsoever, that Sebastian loves his mom, most definitely. Um, you know, he gets that big old cheesy smile with mom. He gets it with dad. Um, I've yet to see anything really like a connection wise, um, except for maybe the deep sea fishing picture. That was a cute one. Um, Bab says he's not a transient. He's there for a reason. He's well dressed. That yellow jacket isn't cheap, and a mask. I agree. And then he's wearing the Air Jordans, right? Absolutely. No, you're right, Babs. I agree with you. And look at his ride, right? He has a nice ride. Um, so Jewel says, look at how she was in her first interviews and then compare it to her interview with Olivia. She acts completely different. I agree. Yes. Yes. And, I think it's really a good idea to reevaluate those interviews. I do. Yeah, his shoes are like new, Babs. I agree. Yeah, and really nice shoes, right? Because like Air Jordans are still not, they've not depreciated. If anything, they're more expensive than they ever have been. Deafening silence. That is a great reminder too. No wonder she flew to the Texas Roadhouse to obtain the footage before At Night released this to the public. They weren't very smart. It got more CCTV than county jail, in my opinion. Yeah. Well, and there were cameras outside, and there were cameras everywhere, right? Except for the bathrooms, which somebody did bring up a good point, where if and I think it was on Mr. and Mrs. E's, or in the chat, basically that would be a place that you could get some privacy away from cameras, would be in the bathroom. I do think it's totally planned, little Miss Sharon. I do. I have a hard time with the accident, but that I can't completely rule it out. But it just seems very well orchestrated, right? Especially when we see a video like this and Katie making sure, hey, I got this pocket has this, wondering where she did put her card. And I don't know, maybe and again, I'm kind of more, I have to have things like organized in a little, like a wallet or something. I don't just carry my cards loose and my ID or anything. Like, it's in a little like billfold wallet type of a thing. Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom says, I do agree with you, Jules. I felt that since the beginning. Yeah. And I've heard that too. Not just from Jules and Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom. There's been quite a few people who have said that. Look, I don't know that Katie had a choice. And I mean, we did go over that here too. Especially when it came to some of the insight that Tony Mathis was giving us with Seth into the CPS reports and what they may have had in them in terms of what was going on in the household, even between Chris and Katie. And then, yes, guys, join Hindsight 2002, 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. And I will share it on my community wall too. I enjoyed, I hated missing that last one. I don't even know how I did, but I really enjoy your guys' lives. I mean, just really well done, packed with information, keeping it to the facts. And then even like the debunking, that was really cool when you guys did that. And you guys even had me giggling a little bit because there was one picture that I didn't expect to see, and I was like, "Oh no, that's not her!" And I won't even say which one it is, but you guys would probably go back there and see me laughing. Um, but I think it's valuable to eliminate people, and I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's actually good to kind of, that person wasn't there, no involvement. That person wasn't, who was involved though? How did this happen? These are such important things to go over. Um, Sammy G says, you guys, I've taken a whole new perspective after viewing some of the things I did this morning. I literally thought I was hallucinating and had to step away for a while, but I think they're over. Oh my goodness, Sammy. Oh, wow. Oh. Was it pertaining to Sebastian's stuff? Because I know it can get really, really heavy. Oh my goodness. I mean, some of the things, yeah. Jewel says deception detective points out Katie uses words like bulldoze with hugs and other construction terms, in my opinion. What if she's alluding to a certain owner of, yes, a construction company? Yeah, I agree with that. And I do remember him saying that too. Um, and then also, SF was saying that he was looking at the construction site right next to the phase that was being built. But again, it could have been just more construction, the innuendos about construction leading him there. I don't know though, but it does make me think of that. And you're right, there were several different innuendos pointing to that, um, pointing to construction sites. um, That's, I agree with that. Bab says deafening silence 2025. Exactly. She wanted to see it and get it before anyone else could. She knew it was on it. Yeah, and why wouldn't you? I would want to go get it right away. Even if I was at the Texas Roadhouse, say with my kiddo or whatever, I'd want to see it. You know, um, absolutely. Sammy G says, wound. I think Craddock's team have to be overwhelmed. I don't know why they won't let somebody else come in if they are not hiding something. But there are a lot of people involved in this. I agree. And I think that there may be some kind of worry, right? That somebody's going to say, well, you dropped the ball. You didn't handle this as an investigation as you should have. You did keep your options open, and you were only operating under the assumption that Sebastian walked off, which, I mean, at this point, I guess there's not really much that we can do about that except for really analyze what we have. And I mean, it just doesn't make sense that he hasn't been found yet. And for them to say we don't have any type of indication that he left the house, that's also peculiar, and it's also concerning at this juncture. And I do agree with you. I think he does need to turn it over, but I don't know that I don't think that will ever happen. And then the fact that they're leaving it as an open investigation is bad, because then we can't get information. Bab says, poor Sebastian inside, especially outside the restaurant. He was watching everything. And Katie, who was watching for when she looks around the Texas Roadhouse. Yes, I agree, Babs. I do. And I think he was on high alert for a reason. He may have been getting a feeling, right? Because like we all get vibes and feelings, and maybe just something wasn't right. And maybe he's like, how come mom and I are going to Texas Roadhouse when usually we come here with Mr. Chris? This is his restaurant, not mine. And, there was a lot of things that were just really off and it was strange. And they didn't even interview the wait staff until much later in the game. If I'm remembering correctly. And Nunny New York Business says, oh, wow, it's been a while, but I'm glad. Oh, I guess I read this one earlier. Sorry, guys, I get a little bit behind in here. I don't know. It just weirds me out on how certain other person doesn't ever let Katie do interviews by herself, and it's always hovering. What if KP using all these construction terms is leaving hints? Yeah, like little breadcrumbs behind. Yeah, Jules, I would not put it past her at this point. There's got to be some sort of semblance of guilt in a way if she is involved, or if she has some guilty knowledge, or if she maybe even thinks that something could have happened. But she had to be involved, but that doesn't mean that she was the main one either. And I also think that she very well could be leaving those little breadcrumbs behind. Yes, Detroit. They are. And Aunt E, oh my goodness. Yeah, I was so glad to see them on. Very refreshing after all the other stuff I was watching, regrettably, but it is what it is. Hindsight 2002 says Yellow Coat did not leave the outside until after Green Hoodie came back out of the restroom outside. Yeah. Yeah, he stuck around for a minute, right? He sure did. My opinion has not changed from the beginning, little Miss Sharon. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I went back and forth and I'm still not, I wish they would show us whether Sebastian made it back to the house or not. That would help a lot. Why don't they clear those things up? I don't think that would hinder the investigation too terribly. I mean, maybe it would. Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom says this theory seems to add up and seems very plausible, but you would think with all this planning, why would they be careless with being seen on camera? It would be my first thought to avoid cameras. I agree, Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom. And I even felt like that too about the 3 a.m. lights. I'm like, if they didn't have to bring any of this activity to the neighborhood, why would they, right? So, if there was a way that they could have done like even a quick handoff, on the way home from the roadhouse, that would have been better than drawing attention to your home in a quiet neighborhood at 3 a.m., right? Because there's just not a lot of traffic, and any little bit of traffic could be analyzed and, caught on camera, right? Absolutely. So cameras would be a big one. And also the Texas Roadhouse is just full of cameras, super busy, right? So lots of like witnesses. It is odd. Yes, that's my thoughts and feelings too, Joel's my opinion. There is a certain king and queen being overlooked because of money. Yeah, and I mean that's been stated a lot of times, and then also bragged about allegedly by Terry Bowersox. I can do whatever I want. I'll hire somebody. That they have done that in the past, particularly when talking about helping CP with his problems. Um, Bab says KP and CP wanted Sebastian gone from their lives. They tried to put him in a horrible school in December, and Seth said no. Seth made preparations to change schedules for Sebastian to be with him at school. And yes, Babs, I absolutely agree with that. And, thank God that Seth did look into that. Because that school was really, I mean, they didn't have just like one instance. It was many, many instances of this type of a behavior, of abuse, of neglect, just a lot of issues, right? It was like you saw the school and it was like chained up there, I mean, there was like a prison. And why, my biggest thing too, and I mean, even I mean, analyzing the Texas Roadhouse video, how in the world were they sending this, young man with a chromosome deletion, autism, to a behavioral school? That always really bothered me, and I'm so glad that Seth, put his foot down and said, no, look, this is not the place for Sebastian. Um, thank God, really. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom says, Canine, it just seems like an obvious thing to notice. They frequent Texas Roadhouse. Most restaurants have cameras. Yeah, and these were really good cameras too. We have really good quality video, right? On this footage. We really do. We got lucky on that. It's pretty crisp and crystal clear. Kathy Bartholomew says, in my opinion, I have my phone off and it still lights up, and some with text messages. Yeah, right. See, that's why I was expecting to see some activity on her iWatch, but we really didn't. But I think I understand a little bit more that it depends on like what kind you have. And then also, how you have it set up to notify. Is it linked directly to your phone? So anytime you get a text, are you going to see that? Light up on your watch? And then also, um, it seems to activate that when you raise your arm up to look, which is pretty cool. And Bab says, what's always stuck with me is CP's statement, when the truth comes out, it'll be amazing. Oh, jeez. Yeah, that one. I think they have him hidden in a school or camp somewhere, and I pray they're arrested for it. That is such an odd statement by Chris, right? Um, and it can be taken a couple of different ways, but I do remember him saying that, and it was almost like, there's going to be an I told you so moment that he's kind of foreshadowing when he says that. But then again, he said so many crazy things, but that is good to thank you for that reminder. Um, and then Jules says, in my opinion, Craddock said that the footage was of no evidentiary value because it's been publicly stated that the neighborhood footage time was frozen and it wouldn't hold up in court knowing that. Oh, that's a really good point, Jules. Yeah. I could definitely see what you're saying there. Yeah. Because it's too hard to decipher what time that would have happened, Bab says, money talks, they could have him in a school under a new name, social security number, etc. Those schools are not reputable and are awful. Well, and they're super secretive, Babs. That's one thing that really got me, is that they were so secretive, and they also made the parents, like some of them were brainwashing the parents to believe that this was the only option, and that if they didn't do this, then their children were going to be, ending up, unalived, on the streets, doing rugs. And, to a parent, that's like your worst nightmare, right? You don't ever want that for your kids. Um, Sammy says, I'm counting 7 and 3 dogs. I'm not kidding you. Well, and it makes me wonder how many could have been involved, Hindsight says, in my opinion, it was not a phone that lit up. It was the light from above when she moved. In my opinion, the reason being the phone would require connection with skin to stop the light, and that was never done directly, in my opinion. Oh, I see what you mean. Like she would have had to have pressed the button or pressed the screen or come into contact with the screen. Okay, that makes sense. Thanks, Hindsight. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that was part of my thinking too, was like, how much is that a reflection off of what? And when we see a flicker of light, is that in fact a phone? But you guys just did such a great job of demonstrating, what was going on there. Detroit says, yes, we did see the phone light, but didn't know for sure. Yeah, I was really skeptical at first. I'm like, oh, she's just, wiping her napkin. No big deal. Nothing to see here. And then, when you re-examine, it's like, wow. Oh, all right. Kiki says, lady, on my on my post, I did a video inside my Infinity to show it doesn't take video or sound. Okay, thank you. See, and they were saying that there was a device in there. We all thought it was possibly a dash cam, but then, they were telling Heather Cohen that it wasn't. And they were adamant about that, and they didn't want to say what it was that was recording audio and video. I did see it, Babs, the video that looks like CP is crouching between the cars. Yeah. I don't know if I could really decipher whether it was actually someone crouching between them, though. I'm going to have to go back and really look. But I could definitely see why that theory would. I mean, there was just so much weird activity right by the cars. And then also I noticed more activity in the vehicle, like I said, to the right of where Katie was parked. And I didn't really realize, because you kind of saw someone sitting in there, but there was quite a bit of activity in that car too. Jules says, well, I gave my full audio to the Philadelphia FBI office from my phone call, so we will see what happens. Oh, that's wonderful, Jules. Thank you so much. And, I mean, that's so important because, any little bit is going to help. And there was a lot in there. I mean, a lot in the audio. Oh, thank you, Miss Ann. Good night. Good night. We love you. And thank you for being here. I know. I can't believe I've been on for 2.5 hours now. Yeah. Yeah. You guys are doing great. Kiki, you're doing so great too. I really, really appreciate everything you guys do. Because we need to analyze it. And the more eyes and stuff we have on these, in the more ears, listening, I mean, it's so important. Sammy says, Canine Jules, that's what some people were saying, but I'm actually wondering if he said that because everyone had on a mask and a costume. People were wearing some strange, I mean, and then just keep in mind too, to be layered like that, it wasn't extremely cold, like, Sammy says it will, Lady Freedom. It will blow your mind when people see what's going on in this video. It will change your mind about this entire case, not the responsible parties, but what the heck went on. Okay, Sammy. Oh, wow. We need something. We need something to crack in it. We really do. Hey, Ann Brock. In my opinion, it was a mirror reduction, not another individual crouching down. See, a reflection. I think it was too, Hindsight. See, that's what this is where I'm stuck with it too. Is I couldn't tell if it was Sebastian, like a reflection of him as well in the vehicle, but then I was like, well, maybe not. Because he was standing next to the car waiting for Katie to, let him into the vehicle. Yes, thank you, Hindsight. When I reread it, I was like, oh, I got you. Yes, reflection. Yeah, and I think that's what I was seeing more of as well. But again, I would really have to go in and analyze it too. Sammy says, Hindsight is the black thing, yellow coat has a walkie-talkie. He also has a cell signal blocking pouch or fanny pack on his right side. Oh, that's interesting. So kind of like a jammer. Like yeah. I can't hear the snoring, little Miss Sharon. Okay, it's just me. I know the mic can pick up a lot of stuff. Oh, okay, perfectly perfect. Boy Mom says the fobs for an Infinity around that year, 2017 to 2019, are the same size as a Nissan key fob. That's interesting. Especially because the Nissan may have been the well, what we identified as the 3 a.m. car, maybe. Ah, that's the hardest part right there is the pixelation. Hindsight. Says Sammy G, anything is possible, but the pixelation doesn't give clarity to that to be confirmed. I know. And that's the hardest thing because when the pixels are changing like that, it makes them look like more block like, more animated, like a character almost more. Um, Thank you. Okay, thank you, Jules. I was trying to think, and I knew I wasn't saying it right. Men's and women's shoe sizes are two off. So a woman's would be a 10, and then it would be a men's 8. Right. Okay. Yeah. So maybe that wouldn't have worked. Because if it's 2, yeah, you're right. I'm trying to think back to the roller skating days, right? Roller rink days. If she wears a 10, he would need to wear a 9 for them to match the sizes. True. Yeah, so then that would put Katie at too big. I don't think her feet are that big. I would like to see that collaboration. That would be a good collab. Oh, thank you, Meow. I will look at it. Oh gosh, guys, I am so behind on my emails. I need to just do a whole day of emails and just get back and grovel and tell you guys I'm so sorry I didn't get back to you sooner. Town Chat Cafe says Lady Freedom, if she wears, say, a 7.5 in women's, then she would wear a size 6 in boys. I used to sell shoes for years. Okay, thanks, Town Chat. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, it's possible a size and a half difference. When I get back from vacation, do a stream with mom and oh, that's gonna be good. Oh, I hope you have a nice vacation. That's wonderful. Okay. Jules says, me and the other handlers are testing this track theory tomorrow. Okay. The up and back. Oh, cool. Okay. Thank you. Oh, that'd be wonderful. Yeah, because I don't know how all that works, you know? Hindsight. You guys are the best. And we have such great people in this community, guys. I can't even, I mean, like I said in the post the other day that I posted, fact, nothing alleged about it. Max, the dog hit on something. These dogs are very trained and disciplined. I agree, Babs. I agree. And, their sniffers are way better than ours. Um, See, and I kind of have different sizes like that too, depending. Kathy says, I wear a 7.5 in women's shoes, but I wear a size 5.5 in boys' boots. Yeah. So you have little feet, Kathy, you see. And you know, I wonder. Okay, so yeah, K9 Max is not scent specific. Thank you. Yeah, and Ken Widener told us that, right? Yes, ma'am, I have your email. Yay. CP said he wore a size 14. That's right. Detroit, he sure did. So I'll put my size 14. Da, da, da. Oh, Lord. Beepity. Canine, my kids would want to live in your. Ah, how cute. The dogs want to live on the dogs. Hindsight 2002 says, in my opinion, whatever was in the other pocket would have been given to the green hoodie, in my opinion. Yeah, that's where my brain was going, because something else, she was checking to make sure that she knew what all was in the pockets, right? Not just, like where it was and how to get to it, right? And she was checking, 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 checking. Not as if she was making sure that she wasn't leaving the table without anything, or any personal items, but more that she was checking to see where they were located for a handoff situation. It really makes sense. Um, and Bab says Katie was definitely looking around for someone while sitting at the Texas Roadhouse. Yeah, absolutely. Aw. Jules says K9 Marley and K9 Ara love kids. K9 Gator is like, oh, they're cool, but mom, mom, mom. Aw. It's so sweet. That's funny. It is so mind-boggling, Nanya. New York business. I agree. I agree. It's totally mind-boggling. Okay, so Jules says if they switch shoes, it would not matter because K9 Max is not scent specific. He's looking for the cleanest scent away from the last known location. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jules. So it would have never have mattered, because he's not scent specific and he's actually just looking for the cleanest scent away from the last known location. So like a direct scent away. Thank you so much. Because I've always wondered about that. The soles would match, not the scent. Oh, that's a good point, Babs, right? They would, the tracks may look similar and would have matched. Okay, yeah. See, that's great. Yeah, see, I don't know. They said that they did, I thought, but I'm not 100%. Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom says, "Oh, that's a good point, lady. Has anyone accounted for Katie's shoes? What if they switched shoes and she had his shoes and then left them by the door?" Well, and I still think that his shoes looked so similar. I don't know that she would have bought brand new, but but they do look newer at the Roadhouse. Those ones look older, but it doesn't look like she needed to buy him shoes because his feet got bigger, like she said. I think, hey Lori, hey Tori Banks, good to see you guys. Um, So that's another thing that really bugs me is Sebastian's shoes at his birthday party versus what they were at the Texas Roadhouse. And Jules says, all these bully channels make fun of me for reading from books whenever I go live. Like, sorry, I like to cite my sources or bring receipts to back up what I'm talking about. Absolutely, Jules. I actually really appreciate when people do that, because it's kind of like, it's like what Judy was saying earlier, how we're not doctors. So if we're diagnosing it, that's difficult, right? And I get that. But I mean, if you bring in a source and cite it and say, okay, this is what, it gives it a little bit more weight and it actually explains things better. So I think that, I mean, I really respect people that do that. Yeah, you have it makes it more plausible and understandable. It paints a better picture. People can see it visually. I agree. And then also, it's not just like, oh, this is my opinion. It's like, I'm going to tell you my opinion, but here's what an expert would say, or what's been written, in this particular source, book, or whatever it is. Yeah. But, that's the thing though, because, and I don't know, in my opinion, a lot of those channels don't have ever show receipts, and if they do, they're kind of disjointed and they're not the real thing. Um, Well, and see, Babs, I've felt this way very much so. Katie became another woman who chose a man over her child. Happens every day, just not always in the news. Yeah, that dynamic is a tough one, and I agree, Babs. And we do see it often in the news, but it happens even more so than we think. I agree with that. And it's unfortunate because, you know, you would think that if somebody, say, wanted to marry you and they know that you have kids, it's like a package deal. I think one of the cutest things I ever saw was the one guy that um, bought, like, she was like a little 5-year-old, and he was going to marry her mom, and he bought her like a little ring and was like, making a commitment to both of them. I thought that was so cute, and I just don't know why people don't go in with that mindset. It doesn't make sense to me, because if you love that person and you're, going to move in with them and be with them, and they have a child, I mean, that's a package deal. That's like a no-brainer, right? But then you see these dynamics where there is abuse present, and you know, it kind of normalizes over time because you're in that pattern of abuse, in my opinion. Holly S says, in my opinion, CP may have changed KP over time. They may be, it was sort of like Stockholm syndrome with her. Yeah, I can see that, Holly, like where, kind of like if you can't beat them, join them, or, you're so afraid of disappointing the person that you're with, right? You don't want to rock the boat. And then also, you know, I think that there was a lot of shame from Chris's family when it came to Sebastian and his different abilities. I really do. I think that they absolutely did not appreciate Sebastian for the wonderful person he is, the gift that they were given. Um, I agree with that, you know. And Bab says, no, not Stockholm, not Stockholm. It's just so hard because, like, we did hear about that. One of the CPS reports stating that Katie was putting Sebastian in danger by staying in the relationship with Chris. That's all alleged, but, that's kind of what happens, right? Because CPS is there for the best interest of the kids most of the time. And I know we've all heard the stories and things like that. But most of the time they're trying to do what's right by the kids. And so they're not really paying attention to, like, the mom's needs or the dad's needs, which is good. But it's also kind of important that, they tell, like, Katie in that situation, like, because sometimes when you're in that situation, you don't realize it. You're like, oh, I'm the victim, right, in the situation. And a lot of times they'll tell you, it's not your fault, but everybody has a certain degree of accountability in a situation like that, right? And so I think that that was maybe the tough love, or like the come to Jesus meeting, that maybe CPS was having with Katie. Like, look, even though you're the one that's also being abused, you're putting your son in an unsafe environment, and you're the mother here. Katie was not isolated in terms of financially. Now, would it be tough on her going from one lifestyle to another? Sure. I mean, that happens to all of us. We all go through changes and they're uncomfortable. But, it wasn't like she wasn't making any money at all, hey, Lori, and that sort of thing, or that he was the breadwinner and she was stuck, at home, barefoot, pregnant, whatever. It wasn't like that. Katie makes her own living. She's an accomplished person, right? She went through culinary school. She's a very, I mean, arguably a chef, right? She is, not now, did she go and do that? No, but that was one of her passions, and she did initially start with that, right? But she also has a lot of skills from the Navy. She's no dummy. She really, if she I think the problem is that if Katie really wanted to, she could have left, and I think maybe CPS seeing that situation and recognizing it, and they may have been pushing her, right, to be like, hey, you need to understand that this is not a good situation, for your son, and you're putting him in danger. Tori Banks says the parking spots there is very close. If someone's car door is open, you can't walk between the cars. Yes, exactly, Tori. Thank you. I agree. And it's you know not something most people are going to choose to go to through that little narrow of a spot. Absolutely. And if a door is open, forget about it. Hindsight says, in my opinion, I don't feel he came home from Texas Roadhouse. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I can still say that I'm up in the air, and I've bounced back and forth. There was a time where I'm like, oh, he definitely made it home, right? Because he took the trash out. And then, but that was very early on. And then I was like, well, if I believe the 3 a.m. lights, then he had to have made it home, right? But then again, they could have had a misstep, right? In that, or I know your theory, Hindsight, that it was possibly like a situation where they were bringing out his belongings at the 3 a.m. lights, like there was a reason for those too, so that could be explained. Um, But I was thinking also there could have been a misstep, and they're like, "Oh crap, we need to get this out." But then again, why would there be so many working parts? Um, but I mean, there is no proof to say that he did make it home, unfortunately, you know? And that's the tough part. Mm, yeah, Kathy, I agree. In my opinion, I feel or think KP was afraid of losing what she has. Well, and we do know that there were ultimatums given, right? We know that they were saying, well, excuse me, we know that it was alleged that Chris had said it's either him or me. And that is never a good analogy to give to a mother ever. It's actually kind of a crappy position to put Katie in my opinion. Not to stand up for Katie, but you know, Bless says, Jules, I feel we are so honored and blessed to have you in our chat. Absolutely. Oh, Bless, you're so sweet. You're so knowledgeable and willing to share your knowledge. Thank you. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. And it's not every day that you do have a scent expert. Exactly. Well, and we're so thankful for Jules for everything, making us laugh with the emu and all, all of that. The Dum Dums probably never picked up a book, let alone read one. Detroit. Oh my goodness. You got me cracking up over here. I love it. I love those faces at the end. That's too funny. They're like a book citing sources. What? Yeah, and I think that goes a long way. Detroit, or Jules says Detroit, one day it's bring receipts or cite your proof, and then the next day it's you're reading from a book. You're a fraud. Like WTF. I know you can't win for trying. It's like, okay, today I'm gonna bring the good sources, right? And you do. And it's always the ones that don't work that hard on it, and you're over there trying to, you know, show what you're talking about. And I think that's so important, because it is hard to paint a picture sometimes. Yes, exactly. Little Miss Sharon hit it on the head. Those hate channels mean nothing and you're exceptional. So exactly. And so knowledgeable. And why you wouldn't um appreciate the knowledge is beyond me, really. Jules says, Hindsight, the only reason I believe he did make it home is because when I sent all my stuff to TBI/Sumner County Sheriff's Office, I talked to both agencies and they both stated they have proof that he made it home. Oh, okay, Jules, thank you. Wow, see, that's powerful. And those are the things that we really need to kind of get I wish they would iron that out for us. I really do. I really, really do. Oh, I agree, Detroit. Spot on. Yeah, because I don't think they know better. Sunny, yeah. Thanks, Jules. Yeah, that was the former sheriff. That was of Sumner County Sheriff's Office individual who told me, and then the two TBI officers. And that's really valuable. That way we can kind of get a good timeline because it's tough, you know? Jules says, I think some of those bully channels forget that I was talking to people behind the scenes since April and remember just about everything I was told and have almost everything in writing still. Yeah. And, sometimes people forget what they've said, and it's a lot to keep track of. Um, well, and I've been they had said that about me in the picture, and I'm like, I did not make this picture. I enhanced it, but Jules says all the issues and bullying and calling me a fake literally started after I said canine aura can detect HRD through concrete and canine gator can detect pharmaceutical medications. One has to wonder why. Yes. And, that was a big question about the concrete. And I think there's a lot that still have the same questions about the concrete. And it's amazing how well the dogs can detect. It, it's fascinating. Um, Yeah, I agree here too. Bless says it's obvious, Jules, how dedicated you are to your profession. We are all the wiser for your kind willingness to share your wisdom. Yes, absolutely. And just being able to ask a question like that and to get a really accurate, good answer, I'm very grateful. Um, you're right. Perfectly imperfect boy mom. They're not intelligent enough to come up with their own content and theories, so they feed off hating on intelligent creators. That's all. Yeah, I agree. And why some don't want the truth out there is really unsettling to me. Um, and Hindsight says, Jules, respectfully hear that. In my opinion, we can't be accepting of that just per their word based on our own research and thoughts. If they have such proof, they should show the public. I wish they would. Hindsight, I don't know. I don't know why well, Craddock talked about the rumor mill, and he seemed, quite frankly, in my opinion of it, he seemed pretty disgusted with it. So why not like help us out a little bit with it, right? And just give us a little bit to go off of in terms of a solid timeline. Not to give away anything that would hinder or hurt the investigation, but I just wish they would give us a better time frame to work with. That way we can say, okay, Sebastian did make it home or he didn't. Sebastian definitely went to bed around sometime and Katie went to bed and that's verified. Um, Again, the iWatch could do that. There's several things that could probably really help us out there. Why they haven't done any of that, or why even the parents on their own, or I should say Chris or Katie on their own accord. Like we saw Seth come out and be like, here's my time cards, right? So, but we haven't seen that on the other side. Um, hey, Sleuthers says couponing. Good to see you couponing. Is there a picture of KP's friend Lori? I do not have my other phone. I think it's in the other room charging. There is a picture of KP's friend Lori. I'm trying to think. I think Bullhorn Betty, was it Bullhorn Betty? It was circulating around, and I had it. I'm trying to think of how far back it was, though. Yeah, Jules says, "Oh, I agree with you, hindsight. That's why I've been hesitant to say anything because I don't know if there is a reason they won't come out and say it." Yeah, I don't know. I think it could really help with the timeline. And if they don't think, if they're saying that they don't have any, because I've heard it been that it's been said or alleged that they don't have any evidence that Sebastian left the house. It's just, I don't know, that kind of puts it into a weird perspective then. That makes it tough, you know? And Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom says, I can only compare my experience with my own ADD/autistic son, and he doesn't pay attention like Sebastian to surroundings unless he's on high alert or uneasy. Okay, thanks, Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom. I appreciate that a lot because he just really comes off to me that he's uneasy, especially after that conversation, too. But he was even so, but then after they had the conversation with with the spoon, right? And Katie was very like animated with the spoon. I just think, I just really think that he was on high alert after that for sure. Yeah, and why not eliminate the question if they said investigation did not take place until after he went home and in bed? Yeah. Exactly. And then for the longest time, they were saying, that they wanted footage from earlier in the day because they couldn't really get, and would that speak to the grainy footage in the trash can video? Um, and Town Chat Cafe says, yes, Lady Freedom, to me, in my opinion, especially in that one interview, she was asked some questions, and the first word she used in the answer was unfortunately. That really stuck as odd. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have any evidence. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Well, and then Katie also caught herself up in a couple of things too. Um, it could very well be a secret indictment case, Sammy G and Mom, and yeah. And we can't put it past, and that's why I try not to, you know, speculate too much on that because we just don't know. Um, Jules says former sheriff was actually super, super sweet and nice and forthcoming with me. I don't really know much about Craddock or Detective Carter beyond a few emails of me sending certs. Yeah, yeah, and he was beloved. Sonny Weatherford was. He really was. Not many people had too much to say in terms of really bad or anything. Um, oh, I didn't see that one yet. Sammy says the other video where Craddock looks like he's gonna laugh or pass out, hindsight video from last night. See, I didn't see that one yet, Sammy. I'm gonna have to go watch. Oh boy. Holly says boy mom 100. Town chat yes, says Holly. The Apple Watch on her wrist, in my opinion, she may have handed it off to Yellow Jacket or Green Hoodie. Oh, that's a possibility, Town Chat. I can see that. Yeah. There was definitely something. There was a reason why they crossed paths. Now, I know some people were thinking maybe rugs, maybe a key was passed off, maybe a phone now. I mean, some sort of a device. But it's just very clear to me from this video that it appears that Katie did hand that phone off. Um, and I know that we can't see it in between of the doors, but we can see that Katie was getting ready for some sort of a handoff, in my opinion. So, I've been wondering if a certain LE is being blackmailed. Last couple of interviews looked very nervous to me. Yeah, Kathy, and that's very possible. Or, maybe he just doesn't want to spill the beans about something, but um oh, Bab says money talks, donations to a school talks, and gets special favors. LE needs to follow the money trail of the BS from December to February, in my opinion. I agree with that, Babs. I do. I do. Yeah, follow the money for sure. And I can't believe that they haven't. I really can't. Tori Banks says, I feel like they have put him somewhere because CP said on a live that Seth should have informed him and Katie about Sebastian being on board to move in with Seth. I do remember that, Tori. I do. Yeah. And it's it's very possible. Um, yeah, the schools are another, and I hate to keep going back to that, but we've kind of looked into it and it's just, I don't know. It's just possible. They're so secretive, and like Bab's money talks, for the right price, they could have kept him somewhere. Um, yeah. Jules says, I truly believe that the former sheriff was dedicated to finding Sebastian. Not that Craddock is not, but there was just a different feel or vibe, if that makes sense. Yeah, it does to me. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I've heard that too. It seemed like more was being done when Sonny was around. Um, Hindsight says Katie claims the FBI cleared up the said footage of him taking out the trash. If if that was the case, Sebastian has never seen it. Or excuse me, if that was the case, Seth has never seen it. Um, yeah, I agree. I agree. Because Seth said that it was just dark and grainy and that you couldn't really tell. But then, yeah, hindsight, you're right. And, she swears up and down that was Sebastian, and that the FBI confirms it. But I don't know if I believe that. Lori says Babs 100% follow the money. Yeah. Yeah, because and that would eliminate it if they do follow the money, it doesn't lead anywhere, but I think it would. Then, that's ruled out. I feel like this too, though, Babs. I do. Oh Lord, what am I saying? Ellie, follow anything related to Sebastian. They never will, and no one will ever be responsible, or no one will be held responsible. Gosh, I really hope not. I can see how it would go that way, though. I really, unfortunately, I can. Hey, Ginger Girl's mom. Oh, sorry, guys. I dropped that link. I didn't mean to. I agree. Canines, Sebastian's seemed to stall when the sheriff passed away. Yeah, I agree. I definitely saw that too. And of course, it was a terrible time, and very, very sad, and people were devastated. I mean, it was unexpected. Um, Town chat, that's funny. Or Detroit, excuse me, Detroit, that was funny. She says, that's why I hate when you're not on. I don't know what to do with myself. There's mostly garbage and drama out there. The only time I miss you is when I'm with my daughter. Aw. Detroit, that's so sweet. Oh, I love you. Yeah, and gosh, there's just been so much craziness. There is a lot of craziness. I know. I think people are, I do. I think people are so sick of that back and forth. Um, Tired of the RICO. Nothing is happening with it right now. Anyway, there's a lot of misinformation about it. Yeah, and just a lot of like misinformation floating around out there. That's for sure. Yeah, and I bet you guys do get kind of crapped out on it. I do. Because I'll be watching and I'll be like, oh, this person isn't so bad. What's everybody talking about? And then the next thing I know, it's like, oh, this is going down. I'm like, oh, this is what everyone's talking about, I'm like, oh boy. Yeah, I so wish they would. I so wish they would. Hindsight says they uh, should just let us see or hear him coming home. In my opinion, that would help everyone move forward to the next possibilities. Yeah, just let us know, or either just confirm it because I could. Then again, the trash video, they kind of messed us up a little bit. Oh, Tori. Oh, it's great to see everyone. Tori, thank you so much for being a member for 3 months. That's wonderful. Aw, thank you. Did anyone notice the sighting of Sebastian and the lady in the pink has the pink watch too in North Carolina? Oh, I didn't know. I did not notice that. I'll have to go back and look couponing. That's interesting. A lot of people think that the sighting in North Carolina was something. Um, well, and see, this is where I get hung up, Babs, too, which Ellie totally dismisses the 3 a.m. Ever happened. That is what was the trash truck. They said it was the trash truck. Yeah, and they've never acknowledged it. That's where I get hung up. Because I know they can fib to us, and I know why they're fibbing, right? Um, in my opinion, it is the DA who was in control, and he has been around a long time. That's true. That's a good point, Ginger Girl's mom. Very good point. Absolutely. Yeah, they dismiss everything. It's more the public to work together, certain not for them to include us. Yeah, and I just wish they would, at least to put us on the right path or for us not to have to go, down the wrong direction. It's so frustrating, in my opinion. Hey, Brenda Calvert, good to see you. It's like the shell game offenders play to divert what is really happening. Every time I see the Texas Roadhouse, that's what I think of. I agree, Brenda. It's tough to watch because it's super busy, right? The restaurant's going and going. It's an odd dynamic between Katie and Sebastian. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, None New York Business says if that was if that was CP crouching, maybe Green Hoodie was needed to wait there to open the back door of the car on the next car so CP could just slip in and out of sight and Green Hoodie can walk out. That's interesting. I need to go back and watch that video a little bit better too. Because I did see, I think it was Crime Time Buzz that did it, right? And I was watching and I was paying more attention to like what was going on in the other car. But that could be a reason why she was walking in between of that, the cars instead of on the other side. Um, like nothing to see here. Yeah, absolutely. Mm. Yeah, I can see that. Jules says, honestly, I think that's why all of these bully channels came after me on the behalf of someone else and tried so hard to discredit me because if um if I'm called to testify, well, definitely. And they've done that to so many people. Jules says, I'll sing the truth and bring the proof. Yes, that's fantastic. And that's what we really need is people that are just willing to do that. It's so hard in this case, though, because there's so much like hatred. No worries, Kiki. I do. This is, yeah. And I can't even say it's like a full-on tinfoil hat moment. Bab says, I think LE is being paid to look the other way to make this go cold, just in my opinion. But Sebastian is either hidden in a school or he's gone forever. Ugh. Those are the two big options in my head too. Kathy, how cute. Unfortunately, CP, it's not the shoe size that matters, Babs. He certainly seems to think so. Oh, Sammy says, Lady Freedom, sorry, I meant the flashlight video. Everyone's wearing a costume in it, even people, 3 dogs dressed like other animals. I thought I was losing my mind. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. That flashlight video is enough to make someone lose their mind. Well, because when you treat it like a negative, there's so much more to see, you know. Babs. Jules, this is a great point. That's why you were supposed to shut the scene down right away when you have a missing person. It's commonly known as K9 is brought in right away to the last known location of the missing person. Right. So then there's not like a whole bunch of, well, it's contaminating the crime scene. And we've talked about that so many times, you know, here. The souls that match, Babs. Yeah. No, he's never, I never thought Sebastian was a runaway, especially, I think it was as soon as I watched, well, what I thought was the first interview was the Holly Thompson interview. So I watched that one first and I was like, there's no way that he left by himself. You know, hindsight says he was never a runaway, in my opinion. And he went with that until they saw the flashlight video, in my opinion. Yeah, and that was a big, like, game changer, in my opinion, too. See, and that's where, yeah, Bab says, why would Ellie ever accounted for Katie's shoes when they bought the story of him running away? I know. I know. It was almost like he didn't believe Katie or something. He was, it was like he had his spidey senses going off or something. He's like, I'm not going to say that he was barefoot, you know? But it's just crazy when we look at these. I mean, even you can tell those are brand new ones. I just don't know why, you know, what's with the shoes and why are they lying about them? Yeah. Bab says Katie didn't appreciate the gift she was given with the blessing of her son. It's only up to her to appreciate love, teach, rear, and provide safety for him. She failed. Yeah, I agree with that, Babs. You know, I mean, I can't blame Chris for all of it, right? Because he's not Sebastian's father, you know. And Sebastian has a good father, and so, you know, for Chris to kind of not maybe taken on that role, I understand, because I think it's a little bit of a different dynamic. You know, if Seth wasn't in the picture, then, you know, Chris may be expected to step up more, and, you know, maybe from my perspective. But the fact that, you know, he doesn't, I tend to put that more on Katie, you know. And hindsight says, in my opinion, I always revert back to why did Katie run back to the Texas Roadhouse when the video came out? What was so important to her, in my opinion? You know, I would have to agree. And I want to know what was the deal, you know, what was so important to her at that time that didn't seem to be important before. Because I would probably run, you know, to the Texas Roadhouse right off the bat. and say, was there anyone watching us? I'd be thinking that right away. But then again, Katie could probably say, well, I thought he walked off. But yeah, I would have to agree, hindsight. Super suspicious. And why? At that time, was it important for you to get your hands on that before we did? Because, I mean, there was just so many things, even just watching the video, that were debunked. I mean, obviously, Sebastian used the bathroom on his own. Sebastian's very well behaved. Sebastian's polite. He's friendly with other people. He was obviously stressed out, and he was able to regulate his emotions to where he didn't have a meltdown. And there was a lot going on. And he had a full day that day. We talk about overstimulation and things like that. I mean, Tori Banks says, I agree about the lights being turned off that night because of what CP and KP said on the Nancy Grace interview about the floodlights. Oh, that is a great point, Tori. Thank you for that reminder. Yeah. Yeah. And they very well could have been, because then Katie's like, oh yeah, they are on, and Chris, well, he corrected her. Well, Sammy says some of these channels watch CSI and think they're attorneys and tell their chat how fraudulent Sumner County is for not letting them go to the grand jury and lying about the grand jury convicting. Oh no, Sammy. That's so funny. I think that, we all have a bit of that, but I understand what you're saying. Detroit, it's a travesty. All they know how to do is steal, mock, and bully other creators. What a bunch of geniuses. They have less than 50 IQ between a lot of them. Oh no. Right? It's like, okay, how many creators does it take to make a 50 IQ? Oh Lord, that was good. That's so funny. All right, sorry guys, I'm getting a little bit caught up here on chat. Yeah, Seth was here earlier. He's a sweetheart for stopping in. He really is. Maybe I'm so small they don't pick on me. Kiki, they better not. They're picking on you, I'm gonna be really mad if somebody picks on you. You're a sweetheart. It's just they don't like us messing with the pictures, and the 3 a.m. lights is a very triggering thing, and that bothers me. It really does. There's something just not right about it. If it's nothing, why are you so upset? In all honesty, I wish the sheriff Yowza was on the case. In my opinion, he doesn't take shit, and Sebastian would have been found by now. I agree. Or how about the Canadian authorities that pulled in Mama and wouldn't let her leave until something happened? They found the baby. um, Little Red. Why would he run away when he had his dad to go to, and he knows his dad's phone number by heart? Detroit, that is such a great point. It just doesn't make sense, because originally I did think that, especially when I heard Katie and Chris say, oh yeah, he could definitely get to his dad's, and they work on the route, and familiar routes he's good with, and all of that. So mm, yeah, perfectly imperfect boy mom says, I've always wondered about Sebastian telling his grandmother a secret and telling her not to tell his dad. What was the secret, and did it have any connection to him going missing? That's a really good point to bring up too. and a good reminder, because he did allegedly share some information with his grandma, Seth's mom, and he said, something to the effect of he swore her to secrecy. And, he didn't want to get anybody, he didn't want to rock the boat, but it was something that was bothering him, and he trusted, his grandmother. Um, I wonder that too, though, Oh, Hindsight says, yes, that was on a neighborhood ring cam alert, but it was a few miles away. Oh, whoops, wrong one. That is such a good question, boy mom, that is. Holly S., I would like to see whatever we can from that vehicle. Oh, me too, Hindsight. I mean, that would just be really valuable, or just some sort of semblance of truth where it makes sense and we can say, okay, this is what happened, um, and we can go from there, and I don't see how that would hurt the investigation, as long as they're not telling a key detail that only the person who has Sebastian or knows where Sebastian is would know, right? Because those are things that can really hurt the investigation. Those are things they'd keep close to the vest, and wouldn't want to be sharing with everybody. But in the same way, wouldn't they want to help? Wouldn't they want help if they don't have anything new? Wouldn't they want to release just something? Because there's been a lot of cases where they've done that. They've held stuff so close to the vest, and then all of a sudden they'll kind of release a little bit, and then it'll help generate more information. So I don't know. Oh, thank you, Town Chat. I will look, and we'll go over it tomorrow, because I'm gonna try to go live as much as I can, because I missed so much this week. We have a lot to catch up on, and there's just a few things that I want to share that I've been working on too. Yes, the beginning is extremely important, and I would love to go over some of this stuff too in the beginning and refresh our memories, because there's so much, and maybe we can kind of build out a timeline of kind of alleged events. Gosh, I'd love to see that other footage too, Holly S. But guys, I've just so enjoyed talking with you all, and thank you all so much for being here, Jules and Hindsight. Thank you so much, because you guys have really given us insight, and then Kiki and all of you guys. It was so nice to sit with you all and talk about Sebastian. We're going to be doing a lot more of that too. You know. There's just so much, and then there's so many unknowns, so well, good, Kiki. I hope you have safe travels. I do. Good night. Yes, I know, I'm gonna be going off too. 90 New York business. I really appreciate you guys being here, and like I said, we're gonna be doing a members only pretty soon, and kind of breaking some of the stuff down, because there's a lot more in this case, that's kind of come to light through this personal experience, and I'd really like to share it with you guys, but I want to again present it in sort of a way that is kind of showing what I'm trying to convey. But I so appreciate you all so much, and I will see you all tomorrow. Hopefully I'll be on around the same time, around 11 or so. So, good night, perfectly imperfect boy mom. And thank you all so much for being here. Good night, Kiki. Good night. And definitely, I think Josh is probably on. I don't know if I got a notification, but go over and check Josh out, guys. He is so good. He is hilarious, and just so much fun. And I really appreciate Josh being here tonight and all of you guys. So good night, Town Chat. And I will go over and check my email too. Thank you for sending me that picture. All right, guys. I love you. Have a good night and be safe out there.